Well, greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another, hopefully a really good, interesting, long conversation today on tonight's Careers Retrospectives. We were supposed to do this Monday, but we're doing it tonight just because of our schedules on both of our ends. I am joined as always by my good man, Kyle.
Hey guys, excited for this one.
Yes, when he first told me this idea, he's like, let's just break down Green Day's entire career. Why not, right? And I'm like, sure. It only takes 3 hours. Let's do it.
Yeah, why not?
Should be good. And should be known. For those who are listening, you remember this, but I'm wearing my Hell and Megator shirt. I came prepared tonight, feeling pretty good. So, such a good show. Anyways, I digress. But tonight, yes, as the title of this video and as of this podcast says, we are breaking down Green Day's entire discography, excluding Demolicious. And what was the other one again?
Shenanigan. Just it's not a technical studio album, just a compilation of B-sides. So it didn't really want to count that in there.
Yeah. So
we could briefly touch on it, but
yeah, we'll mention it when the time comes around. But
yeah.
But I am really excited to do this, and let's get right into it, Jai. Let's overall just talk briefly about Green Day as a band really quick before we get into their career and their discography. So, Kyle, Green Day. What comes to mind to you when you first think of Green Day?
Oh my God. Well, full disclosure, for anyone that's listening, if they didn't tune into our 21st Century Breakdown conversation a few months ago, Green Day is my all-time favorite band. Full disclosure, there's not a single thing that they've done that I fully dislike in terms of full albums. Really a timeless band. First thing that comes into my mind, I would say just the sheer amount of hits that they have, crossover hits into the mainstream in multiple different decades. That is such a hard feat for a band to do, but Green Day is just timeless enough where they've done it seamlessly and hopefully continue to do it.
Listen, when I think of Green Day too, personally, I think of some of the best pop punk out there, some of the best punk, honestly, out there. Truly incredible live, as I did see him on the Hell and Megator on a different show than yours, because Fall Out Boy had to fall through, of course.
Yeah.
On my show, but you got to see all three. Lucky you. I love Green Day as well. Not on the same caliber as magnitude as you, but I do love Green Day quite a bit. They are definitely
not many people are on that magnitude.
Exactly. This full disclosure. When I first asked Kyle if we want to do a show together, the first thing I thought of, well, why don't we just talk about Green Day? And then we led to what we do now. But our first episode of Career Retrospectives, we talked about 21st Century Breakdown, which we'll get to at some point tonight.
Yep.
But Green Day is just one of those bands to me. It's truly, I agree with you. It's timeless. They are truly one of a kind. They definitely broke a lot of things back in the mid 90s. Like they broke pop punk out in a sense with Dookie. We'll get that in a little while too. But like when I think of Green Day, I just think of an all around fantastic band. 3 guys who really have stuck together since their inception, and they have done an incredible job since then. I have loved just about everything I've heard as well. I think that, some of their songs are incredible, timeless classics, of course, and hits as well, just hard rockers. They've touched me in many different ways, and so many more. But I don't come close to you. You have like your caliber is like I bleed Green Day.
Yes. And I do just want to also add best live band out there in my opinion, and either way, objectively, at least in the top 3 of all time in terms of live show. It absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, and if you have never seen Green Day, I mean, we both seen Green. You've seen Green Day many more times than me, because you've seen them plenty more than me. But like, they are incredible live. I mean, there's no denying it whatsoever. They got high energy, high effects, high loud vocals. Like you name it. You want a rock show? Go see Green Day. Truthfully, they rock it out. Awesome. But enough dilly-dallying. Let's get into their first album that was their debut album. Is 1989 or was it 90?
1990.
1990. So
1990.
let's talk at first about is it called 39 Smooth?
Yeah,
And
39
like,
Smooth. And then it was reissued a year later in 91 with the previous EPs under the
okay.
name 1039 Smoothed Out Slappy Hours.
Yeah, I was about to say, isn't that's such a
Yeah.
weird name for like an album an album? Like
It's just
what?
the name of all of the EPs plus the album smashed together.
Yeah, that's I mean, full disclosure, I mean, right off the bat, what I'm gonna let you go first because I want to hear because this is their debut album, like first ever on Lookout Records. What's your take on 39 Smooth, 1039 Smooth Out Slappy Hours?
Yeah, so for what it is, it it's a great first album. I wouldn't say it's a timeless classic like there are others, given there are a handful of songs on it that I would put up there with their classic hits and that still do get played at live shows today. But for the most part, it's your stereotypical debut album for a band from, a genre that wasn't big at the time in the mainstream. It's punk. It's definitely more punk than a lot of their other stuff, but it's still that like early pop punk vibe. Production's not that great on it, but again, you don't expect that from the first outing of a brand new band. Only album to not have Trey's drumming on it, and I think that really shows. I think that the drumming on this one's a lot more straightforward than Trey Cool's drumming, which is not a bad thing. The drumming is still good instrumentally. It's a solid album. As a whole, I would say it holds up for what it's worth. I do wish that production on it is a little bit better. I probably come back to this one the least of all their albums, but there are we'll get into the track list in a minute, but there are a handful of songs here that I do come back to very often.
Forgive us if we cough a lot. We're still both a little sick.
Yes.
I gotta tell you the truth. When listening to this album from start to finish, and I forgot that Trey did not play on this. He played on the second album, Kerplunk, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, because you can the drumming. I agree with you. You can definitely tell there. It's like you can definitely tell that it's like, oh well, it's not like you can kind of tell it's not Trey almost. It's hard to distinguish a drummer, but in this case, I definitely could tell that Trey was not because
yeah, Trey is one of those drummers that you can tell. There's very few drummers where you can tell just by the playing style who it is. I would say Trey is one of those right along there with Travis Barker, Neil Peart of Rush, and a handful of others. But I'd say those are probably the big two or big three that I can really tell right away who it is.
Yeah.
There are plenty of others out there, but those are the top three off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, and I think, and also, I mean, even though it was their first album in general, but without Trey, I think Trey obviously has played a major factor since then as well. But but the original drummer was John Kiffmeyer. That's what it says right here, right? That's his name.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And he left after this album, and then they got Trey. So let's just read through the track listing first, and then we'll get to each one individually. But At the Library, the first song on their debut album, At the Library, Don't Leave Me, I Was There, Disappearing Boy, Green Day, the song Green Day, which I'll get to in a little bit too. Going to Pasquale, is that how you say it? I never know how to say it.
Pasalacqua.
Okay. Yeah. 16, The Road to Acceptance, Rest, and The Judge's Daughter. 10 songs that really, a great start to their career, truthfully. A really, really solid, good start. Why don't you go first? At the Library. What's your take on At the Library?
It's all right. It's good. I wouldn't say it's one of their top tier songs. I mean, for me, I would put top three Going to Pasalacqua, I Was There, and Disappearing Boy are my big takeaways from this album.
Okay.
A lot of it, I would say, I wouldn't call it filler, but I wouldn't put it like up that high either. It's a great song though. I mean, the songwriting is there for a band that's on their first outing. The songwriting throughout the album is really consistent.
Yeah. And the lyrics too. I mean, we'll get to towards the end of the when we talk about this, but the actual lyrics. I mean, for a band just starting out, like some of their, it was like, when we got, there's a couple songs on Kerplunk I want to get to when we get there, but like their writing is really, really good, like to start off initially too.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
even as they got into American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown, when they got like heavily, like this the way we see things type of thing. But at the same time, it's like their lyrics are still, very much what they were of the time. I bet when they first wrote this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the song "I Was There" is Billy didn't even write the lyrics, but lyrically it's great, and it gives you like that nostalgic feeling for being younger. Really good lyrically. It is pretty solid for a band just starting out, and I do want to point out that Mike's bass playing on this album really shines.
I
It's
agree.
great throughout. This is kind of when they were just going crazy as kids and throwing in, this sounds really cool, let's put it in there. And it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you can definitely tell it's like a first album. Like we're just starting out and whatnot. I would say, me personally, the three standout tracks to me personally, I would say would actually have to be just Spring Boy as well. At the Library just stands out to me for some reason.
It is a very good song.
Yeah, and actually the band title the song Green Day, for some reason I've always gone back, because a lot of people forget that it's a song. It's not just the name of the band. Like they named the name of the song Green Day, and then they changed their name to Green Day after it was Sweet Children, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So there's that. But the rest of it, I mean, like the first half is really solid. Like At the Library, just Spring Boy, Green Day, going to Pasalacqua. I'm gonna just say it the way whatever it is. 16, I thought was, it's good, but the second half, like Road to Acceptance is good, Rest is good, and Judge's Daughter. I agree with you. They're not like filler, but still.
So this album does have one of the only. There's probably about only 3 Green Day songs in existence that I do not like. Just hands down, do not like. Rest is one of them.
Okay.
Rest is one of the only Green Day songs that I never listen to it. I actually skip it every time. It's a weird attempt at a slow ballady type song that I don't think they were ready to write at the time. And to me, it doesn't work. That's just me. I never come back to it.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, you're right. Full disclosure, this is the Green Day guy. We got the Green Day king over here, so he's gonna correct me on a multitude of things tonight that I'm not fully aware of, and he's gonna give me unknown facts that I've never even heard of. So just bear with us tonight.
I do also just want to hit really quick on the re-released version of it when they reissued it with the previous EPs, because there are quite a few standout tracks of those EPs, and if you're looking for this album now, that's how you're going to find it, is the reissued one. That's just how it is. I'm pretty sure on all the streaming services that's all lumped in together.
Yeah, it is
automatically. Not their cover of Knowledge by Operation Ivy is on there, and that is still to this day a staple of their live show, and I personally think they do the song even better. 409 and Your Coffee Maker, Paper Lanterns, both of those still make appearances live here and there too, as does Going to Pasalacqua.
Yeah, they played them not too long ago. Not the Super Bowl Fest, the other one. Whatever festival it was.
Yeah, they played a couple of them. I forget which festival it was, but yeah, they did. There are a couple of songs on here too. Like I think that the weakest out of these pre-album EPs, 1,000 Hours, with the exception of Dry Ice, the rest of them I don't think are that great in terms of what else is there. Like 1,000 Hours is some of the cringiest lyrics Billy's written. Like he's trying to write like a love song. It's kind of corny. But again, we're talking about like teenagers at this point, essentially.
He was 15 or 16 years old. He was younger
That's
than
what
us.
you expect, man. It's a cheesy punk love song, but the rest of it's very good.
Yeah. I mean, I like only these are all coming back to me now because I went through a whole Green Day phase, like not quite as heavy as you, but like I went through a Green Day phase and I just listened to all of this stuff again for the first time since that binge, and I was like, wow, I forgot how good like a lot of these earlier, really pre-reprise records songs were.
Yeah.
Truthfully, like Paper Lanterns, you should Paper Lantern. That's one right there.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I mean, and it's a solid album overall. It's as far as a debut goes, I think it's where they were at the time. They were just in this sort of mindset of like, hey, we're gonna have these are the songs we're gonna put out, and that's gonna be that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, but yeah, I mean, overall, I think 39 Smooth and was what is it called? 1,030, the weirdest title possible. 1,039 smoothed out slappy hours. Love to see it.
Yep.
What, my friend? Where does this rank amongst your Green Day albums?
So just for the fact that I don't often come back to many of these, well, to too many of the songs, and unless I have it on shuffle, the production kind of drags it down a bit for me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad album by any means, but I would definitely put it at number 13.
Okay. And that's no slur of it either. I mean,
No, not at all. It's just when you have a career's worth of fantastic albums, something has to take the last place spot.
Unfortunately, so I'm gonna go personally. Me, I'm gonna put it number 12.
Okay.
And okay, this is just me because it is their debut, but again, I agree with a lot of the points you made. The quality of it is very low budget studio. There's not much, good clean audio, whatever. And they were just starting out. I mean, they've gone on to write some of the greatest pop punk rock songs of all time, truthfully. An American Idiot, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Basket Case, etc. Even Still Breathing was great. We'll get that in like an hour. But like, I don't know. Like I put it number 12 because it's the first one, but is it like the best one? No, and it's to the mainstream. It may not be as well remembered, truthfully, either. So I'm going to say that for as far as my number 12 personally. That's me.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, now you ready?
Yep.
Let's go down to Kerplunk. Their next album, their second studio album, Kerplunk from 1991. Can I go first?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. This one, full disclosure, this is what I out of all of the 1990s Green Day, like with Dookie, Insomniac, Nimrod, even Warning to some extent, right? Well, it was 2000, right?
Yeah.
Like this one, I don't know what it was. The lyric writing jumped a little bit more from it because this is Christy Road on it, right?
Yes.
I love that song. Christy Road, like I just want to shed some light, show some love for the Christy Road people out there. Like full disclosure, this is one of I love this album a lot. They're like it has the original version of Welcome to Paradise. 2000 Light Years Away was written for his girlfriend at the time, or no, who became his wife. Sorry, Adrian. I love Christy Road. I love their cover of My Generation as well, because that is like the that's included on the streaming.
Yep.
On
again, that's pretty much what you're going to find with most of the releases of this album, like 1039. It's the CD version, cassette version, and the streaming versions have that Sweet Children EP bundled in with it.
Yeah.
I think the only time you're going to see Kerplunk with its original track listing now is if you buy the vinyl, which I think most of them now, at least the pressing I have, comes with a separate pressing of the EP.
Okay.
So I included those on here when I was listening back to everything.
Yeah. And this is Trey's first appearance with Green Day. Mm-hmm. Trey Gould, the drummer. Who wrote Cold and Caulfield? I love that song too. I forgot going back to them. I forgot they wrote this. One of my, I'm just jumping around a little, and I'm jumping around. Forgive me, guys. But 80 is a great track. I love that track. I don't know what the way it just sounds is like. It's awesome. I love that song. So for me personally, the standout tracks are 2000 Light Years Away, the original Welcome to Paradise as well. I love the Dookie version as well more though, but I do love this version. Christie Road, 80, and Who Wrote Cold and Caulfield are standouts for me personally. Kyle, Kerplunk, talk to me. What do you got?
This album was such a step up in just the course of about a year, a little less than 2 years. What a step up from the album, production wise, sound wise. I don't know if we can blame that all on Trey Cool coming into the band here, but it truly just astounding, the difference in quality of the two albums. Like you said, 2000 Light Years Away, still a staple to this day of their live show. Christie Road still makes appearances.
Yep.
Who Wrote Holden Caulfield sneaks in every once in a while. I believe they played that the 21st Century Breakdown tour at least one of the shows I saw on that tour. My top art of this album are really not far off from yours. 2000, in no particular order, 2000 Light Years Away, Who Wrote Holden Caulfield, which actually I believe is Billy's favorite song from this album as well. And Christie Road. Fantastic songs. I also want to highlight Android in there. Fantastic. The ones that I would consider, I don't want to say, I say low points, but what I mean is just they're not bad songs when I say that. I would say the ones that are my least favorite on the album, the bonus tracks. Best Thing in Town and Strangeland in particular. Sweet Children's pretty good. Best Thing in Town and Strangeland just kind of don't hit that great for me. Other than that, though, the rest of the album, absolutely fantastic. And I would put Welcome to Paradise as a low point, only because the Dookie version exists. Because if I want to listen to the song, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to the Dookie version.
Yes.
Again, similar to the last album, the production on this, it's definitely better. Without a doubt, the production is better. It still has a dated production when you go back and listen to it.
Yes.
You can tell that it was still not like a high budget major label album. Nothing wrong with it. It's just what it is. It's not as pleasing of a listen on the ears in terms of production, which, again, second album, not mainstream band yet, but this really kicked them up to that point. And we even have a song completely sung by Trey on here, Dominated Love Slave, which is a hysterical song. Great album. Absolutely huge turnaround from the last one, in my opinion. And that's, again, impressive since their debut was a very good album.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a couple of fun facts for Kerplunk. I was trying to blank on what it was called for a second. I don't know why it's right in front of me. This was their first album that actually have you ever seen the Behind the Music Green Day episode?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Do you remember when they were talking on there about that when the Kerplunk came out? It actually sold at the time. Keep in mind, guys, Green Day at the time was a very, very unknown band. They had toured the US briefly, like for their first album, and then they hit the road for
small clubs and
clubs
like that.
But I will say the number I heard, if I'm not mistaken, this album on CD or whatever, with an unknown band, with an unknown like label and whatnot, sold 70,000 copies in CD back in the day.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number, but yeah, it sold very well for a non-mainstream band. It pretty unheard of. It really helped them break out into what they became a couple years later.
I agree. I mean, and I think this was after this album came out, they were looking to they were approached by, because after like Nirvana and grunge, they're like, oh, what's the next big thing? And then sure enough, we're gonna get to Dookie in about a minute, but they were looking for like another band to like be the next thing, the next big thing. And sure enough, they found it with Green Day, but they had to sign to a major label. You know, I remember Mike saying at one point, like there was a guy at like one record company. He was like, I'll do anything for you to tattoo the Kerplunk logo on my ass because I'll do anything for you kind of thing to get it assigned to our company type of thing. Like they were like they found Green Day and they're like, look, you could be rich, you could be really popular if you break out into the mainstream if you want to. It was a big risk, of course. The whole episode was like how to break out in the main. It was really cool. That whole if you can find the behind the music video of that on YouTube, good for you.
I think it is on YouTube.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, I think it is. I also want to just highlight the album cover.
Oh yeah, totally.
Green Day has been a band that has had, with the exception of 39 Smooth, fantastic album covers, and it really started with Kerplunk. It's iconic. The flower shirt, the girl holding the gun, it became an iconic album cover, and I think that every album since then has had a great cover, even the ones that other people might disagree with.
I agree. I mean, for those you or will listening, you'll be able to see it, but like just look up Green Day Kerplunk. I mean, the flower on the t-shirt, the girl with the gun in her hand, truly is an iconic album. Album cover. My throat is killing me already. But I do have to you're right. They are a band that always has great covers. I never thought of it like that until now, but you're right though. They do have a really good, solid, cover for all their albums, truthfully. American Idiot with the heart-shaped hand grenade, and look at that, whatever. But yeah, so
and Mike's bass on this album again, incredible.
Yeah.
This is still when he was kind of showing off in a way with his bass playing. Over the years that has kind of fallen off a bit. He plays a little more to the song rather than playing like show off parts, which is fine. I think that it's important that musicians know how to play to a song rather than trying to show off all the time.
Yeah.
But it's great for people to go back here and just think, just be reminded that, Mike Dirnt is actually an incredible bass player.
He's one of what a Fault Boy say. He's one of the most identifiable bass players.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is such an incredible bass player. He is, his tinny tone, everything about his playing is just, it's Mike Dirnt.
Yep. And that's one thing about every member of this band. They're all identifiable in their playing style. Trey Cool, it's Trey Cool. Mike Dirnt, it's Mike playing the bass. And Billy, even though it's just power chords and rhythm guitar for the most part, he has a very identifiable style to how he plays that you always know when it's him playing. And I do want to say this album, his vocal tone is significantly better than the last one too. Yeah. He got a little deeper on the album, which, it's not really that much older, but I think that might also just go back to production value as well.
Right. Yeah, you're right though. He actually just an overall, Kerplunk, it stands the test of time as truly a fantastic record. But the question is, where does this rank amongst your Green Day albums?
So having said all of those things about it, much like my reasoning for 39 Smooth being where that is on my list, I do have to put this one at number 11.
Okay.
Specifically because it's one of the ones that it's not my first pick to come back to. And that's not in a bad way. Again, I do think it's a fantastic album. But again, there are ones that I like more. So I have to put it at number 11.
All right. Well, I'm going to add that. My personal, if my buddy Bill was here, he'd say we swipe right. I'm going to put mine as at number 11 as well, because it is still, it's a great record. It is one of the best underground indie records, not indie per se, but like one of the best selling major label records out there, if I'm not mistaken. Like it sold like 4 million copies worldwide or whatever of this one record. But I'm going to put it at number 11 as well, only because of how early it was in their career. Truthfully, they had they've gone on to, like I said, they've gone on to write many other incredible things. But this one personally, it is still their second album. They've written so many other great stuff after this that is, in my opinion, better than some of the things on here. Even though it is great, there are things that are better.
See, that's the thing is, if any other band had released just these two albums, you could have called it a good run for that band, because these are both great albums, but it's just what came after it has overshadowed it in such a way that you almost feel bad putting them so low.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, they are just that good. I don't know. It's a solid record overall. It just, they've written so many other great things.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So let's if we're finally gonna do this, right? We're finally talking about Dookie in 1994. You go first. Like, I want to hear your person, because I could go on too, but I want to hear your, because you talk to me about Dookie. What do you got?
Yeah, so there's when little peek behind the curtain, when I prepare for these videos, I go back, I listen to every album. I take notes on them in terms of high points and low points of the album. There's no low points on this album. There's nothing I could pinpoint and say that's a low point of the album. It's the first album of theirs that is consistently solid front to back. The cultural impact of Dookie cannot be understated. It was a massive album. It made them into household names. Some of the most massive singles of the genre in general here. I mean, you got Longview, Basket Case, Welcome to Paradise, the re-recorded version, When I Come Around, all massive. And then one of my favorites, She, that was a high point for me. Even though it wasn't like as big as the others, they still play that one live to this day. Even on Hella Mega, they're playing it. Burnout, incredible opening track, definitely the best opening track of their career so far up until this point.
Yes.
The only kind of low point, which I can't even count as that, would maybe be All by Myself, the hidden track. It's just a joke song performed by Trey, which it's funny, and I like that it's a little hidden track there, but it's not like a necessity of the album, in my opinion. Really a decade defining album. Like, when you think 90s music, you think Dookie.
Need I say more?
Even the songs that are less popular here are all fantastic. I mean, even like the less revered one, like Sassafras Roots, Coming Clean, Chump, Having a Blast, all great. And then the closing track, FOD, wow, like their best opener and closer of the first three albums right here. First major label album, got them kind of shunned in their local scene for a while. Dumb reasonings, but really, really fantastic culture impacting album.
I have no words, because everything you just said was pretty damn on point. Like, everything from the 5 hit singles off the album, the incredible opening track, the way Chump segues into Longview, Pulling Teeth is a great song. Like, Coming Clean, incredible. Like, in the FOD is incredible. Like, for a major label debut to be that successful and going to like multi-platinum success after all those years, whatever, right?
Oh, easily, yeah. And Rob Cavallo, the start of Rob Cavallo's working relationship with the band, longtime producer. He did such a good job with this album. It sounds great. The production still holds up. We're decades later at this point.
Yeah, like almost 30 years old.
Oh, God. Yeah. Yep. But everyone on this album sounds good. Billy's vocals, this is where I feel like he really came into his own as a vocalist as well as a songwriter.
Yes.
Trey's drumming, I think, has some of the best parts best drum parts of his career here. I mean, Burnout, incredible. The bass on Longview and the drums on Longview as well, iconic. And all of the all the singles pretty much of this album are still live staples almost 30 years later.
I mean, When I Come Around is played on the radio still to this day.
Oh, so it was Basket Case.
Basket Case, yep.
Yep.
I heard Longview the other day on FM radio. I'm like, there you go. So,
yep.
And it's truly is an era. What'd you say? An era defining album? Is that what
Absolutely.
What you said? 100%. I mean, the guy, and mind you, this is their first major label debut album. It was all
talk about iconic covers too. One of the most iconic album covers of all time here.
I agree. It's
also had the era of the infamous mud fight when they played Woodstock.
Oh, yep. The 25th anniversary of Woodstock. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Just an all-around incredible, like just an unbelievable album. To this day, it is one of the best albums of all time. Truthfully, I would put it in the top 500, even the top like 300. Truthfully, just throw it in there. It's that good.
I would put it in the top 100.
There you go. Even better. There's so many other albums too. But yeah, incredible album, start to finish. Truly an incredible. I'm still sick. Truly just an incredible album, start to finish. But the question is, Kyle, where does Dookie rank on your list? I'm a little scared.
Here's where I get into. Here's where I start to get into trouble, because as objectively iconic as this album is, and how not only genre defining but culture and decade defining the 90s this album was and still is, I gotta put it at number 6.
Oh my god!
Way lower than most people's rankings.
Oh my god! I would have a heart attack.
I'm gonna be honest. I was shocked myself when I went through, and because when I go through these, I listen to everything, and I make that ranking of as I'm listening to them. And as I went through, I was like, you know what? These songs are all fantastic songs. They're all incredibly written. Can't say enough about how good it is. But for me, it goes at number 6.
You really took me by surprise. I was like, he did.
I know. I warned you before we started this that my list was going to be very controversial.
He's going to say number 3. I know it. What? Number 6? No, I'm just kidding. But I was like, what? Dude. Oh my God. How could you? All right. Taking it back. Give me a sec, everyone. Give me a sec. I have it at, truthfully, number 3. Might be a little bit higher than you, but not quite like that top tier. Incredible. It is great. It is a truly incredible album. I love it. But is it the best one in my opinion? No. I'm putting a little, not as low as you, but not as high as you as well.
Yes, I think that's probably where a lot of people would put it. I'll get into my reasons for once we get into the other ones that I put above it. But I shocked myself, to be honest.
I can't. Oh my God. I'm having a little bit of a stroke right now. I'm like, how? But then again, he is the Green Day guy. So there we go. That was 1994's Dookie. He's at number 6. I'm at number 3. Let's jump over to 1995. Let's talk about Insomniac. What a different record, truthfully. I mean, still fast paced, still punk rock. But
I'd say I would argue even more fast paced.
Jaded? Anyone? Brain stew into Jaded? Come on, Talk to me, Insomniac.
So this album really surprised me upon listening through again. As a kid, this album didn't do much for me.
Okay.
Not in like a bad way. There was still a handful of songs that I really liked. But as the years gone on, especially the past year or two, I love this album. I don't know what happened. I don't know what changed for me because it's an album that I still used to listen to very frequently all the way through. And I still liked all the songs, but they didn't hit back then like they have for me the past couple of years. And wow, when I talk about how Dookie had no low points, this one as well to me. Not a single low point in the album. It hits hard from beginning to end, and it is the more aggressive, like brother album to Dookie here. It is in almost like angry album, whereas like Dookie had some like it had like fun to it. Songs about like just like some dumb subject matter. It's fun stuff on there. This album is just like a kind of like a big fu to everyone that like shunned them from the scene because of Dookie. And wow, really, really did a 180 for me over time. Went from being a pretty low tier album for me to being it's up there. It's up there. High points for me. Armitage Shanks, which I will just want to say that Burnout was the best album opener up until then. I would say this one beat out Burnout for me. I think it's a fantastic opener. Yeah, this album didn't have as many hits on it. Yeah, Geek Stink Breath, Brains Stew, Jaded, but I mean nothing compared to Dookie. But I mean Brat, Walking Contradiction, it's such good songs. Panic Song, lyrically, I think it's a better album than Dookie, just because it deals with a little more serious topics. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much where I'm at with it. I went from someone that would put it in the bottom tier of their work to someone that absolutely adores this album and really has surprised me over time, especially with how well it's held up, and the remastered version of it in that came out last year sounds even better.
Excuse me. Still sick, everyone. Coming off of Dookie, multi-platinum, incredible success, incredible album, totally understood, right? Totally just incredible album to begin with, Dookie. Going into Insomniac, it is truthfully, I would say it's a little bit darker.
Yes,
definitely darker. I mean, because you have like Brain Stew is a song that has two movements. For those of you who are not musical familiar with, there you go. But like it's just doo-doo on the guitar in different chords. And Jade, it goes from the slow pace, like I'm bored kind of thing to Jaded. Well, I mean, I don't want to touch on Brain Stew is incredible. Geek Stink Breath, bruh. That like, there are some incredible songs on this album that I still like. I go back to sometimes too. But how can we forget? I mean, Kyle did touch on the album opener. Armitage, how do you say it? Armitage Shanks?
I would have said Armitage.
Okay, Armitage. Armitage, I'm going to butcher it every time. The first song, Armitage Shanks, I'm going to butcher it every time. Sorry, guys. Wow. Was this just incredible, like drumming, definitely harder guitar, heavier power chords. I just want to list off the track listing here. Armitage Shanks, Brat, Stuck With Me, Geek Stink Breath, No Pride, Babs Uvalahu. Am I saying that right?
Babs Uvalahu.
Oh, sorry, everyone. Yep. Uvula 86, Panic Song, Stewart and the Avenue, Brain Stew, Jaded, Westbound Sign, Tight Wad Hill, and Walking Contradiction. This album, you know, for coming off, like I said, coming off of Dookie, they're like, all right, what's gonna be next for Green Day? What's gonna be next? Damn right, they know how to do it. I mean, it is truly an incredible record. like I think honestly, as far as production goes, it does sound a little bit more like sinister, a little darker, like a little bit like more like, oh, they're going that route. I mean, it definitely, Kyle's right. It was pretty much an FU to the critics saying like, oh, how could these people be, how could this band be so, pop, real punk is not, commercially accessible and it's supposed to be dark. It's supposed to be gritty. They listened to that and they made this record. But at the same time, just what a batch of songs to pump out during that time. I love it too, but what a unique record to make, truthfully. And you're right though, the 2021 remastered thing, remastered vinyl that came out, right? Is that right?
Yep.
It just sounded even more clear. Like it sounded more quality.
The remaster is also on Spotify.
Okay.
And it's noticeable. When they announced that they were doing that, I was thinking like, oh, how much of a difference could there really be? The bass is more prominent. The mix is just clearer all around, which honestly, I didn't even think it needed a remaster, but I'm not complaining. It sounds great. But these songs were just so like aggressive. Like it still has a pop punk. It's still technically pop punk. Like I can't classify it as full punk, but they really scaled back the pop part. And like you said, they made the album that people were giving them crap for when they made Dookie. And it, in my opinion, worked insanely well. And it's something that we have not gotten from the band before or since. It's something, it's a very unique album for them and a unique point in time. And it really gets overlooked at live shows. I think they need to bring back a lot of these songs.
I completely agree. You know what they should do? They should put 80 and 86 back to back in the set list. just for the hell of it.
I throw 16 in there too.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get all the numbers going. And then 99 Revolutions.
We'll just get the entire set list of numbered songs.
Yeah, like there's gonna be a number block, just those
Sweet
four.
16. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Why not, right? Screw it. Let's just Green Day. If you're listening to us, just put it in your next show. Not that after the Hell Mega Tour in Europe, do the set list of just like the 5 songs with numbers in them in one part of the show. Just do that one segment, and you have my heart forever. Just saying. No, I think that'd be pretty funny enough. They did, but and bring back the song Green Day. No, anyway, whatever. You're right though. It is overall an incredible sounding record. Some of the darkest writing I think they've ever done, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
I would say it's up there, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, but obviously, the question is, where does this rank amongst your Green Day albums, Kyle?
So this is one of the ones that surprised me a lot.
Oh my god.
Number 5, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Above Dookie, for the reasoning that Insomniac, the highs, especially commercially, might not be as high as like the Dookie highs. I mean, you're talking like you have, like we said, Longview, Basket Case, When I Come Around, like the heavy hitters there,
Yep.
This one has also a bunch of heavy hitters, even the ones that are more deep cuts. But the deep cuts, and I think on this album, are better than the deep cuts on Dookie. Like in the end on Dookie, Sassafras Roots, Amenius Sleepus, they're all fantastic songs. I wouldn't classify any of them as filler songs, but I think that as a whole, to me, especially lately, and it could change over time as my ranking for Green Day albums generally does. But for me, I think this one is a little more consistent front to back. Like when I listened to it the other day, it just blew me away. I was like, that it was such a good listen. I listened to it twice in a row. It just flows so well. There's not a single point in the album where I find myself being like, oh, can't wait for the next thing. It's just consistent throughout. I think that pound for pound, because of the more deep cuts on it, I gotta give it the edge over Dookie just slightly.
I can't believe you just did that. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
It's
Most people
all
probably
good.
can't.
I don't even know how. I mean, saying Insomniac is better than Dookie. I mean, to be fair, there are. My voice is shot, guys. I'm sorry. Um, it's just sore. But like some people say that this is their best record too, because some people really love this record. They think, oh, it's the best Green Day record. I've heard people say that online.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're wrong, but I have mine at number 5 as well, and just for the same reasoning you put. It's still in the 90s. We're still in like that mist of pop punk. And the Offspring starting to kick off as well. Green Day inspired a bunch of bands. They're all coming up to the scene now. I would say that I would put it number 5. I'm putting mine at number 5 as well because of the reasons you listed, and then some extra ones as well. Like just because it is such a unique record. It is very different. Truthfully, it's a very different record. But you're right. We have heard nothing like it or nothing since then. Thus, it is my number 5.
I also just want to put in there real quick that I forget when it was. A year, maybe 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
Billy did, I think it was an interview, whatever it was. He had said that if they ever did a sequel to an album, he would want to make Insomniac 2 if they were ever to do a sequel. I doubt it would ever happen.
Right.
But just the fact that they still hold the album's sound like very dear to them, I think it says a lot. It's really definitely an outlier in their discography here.
I completely agree. I really do think that it's definitely it's up there for sure as a 90s, song, a 90s album, and it was the album after Dookie, so it was going to do well, but like it just didn't. And then it was just their answer. The critics, a lot of unique stuff to it. Truthfully, I love it a lot, but that's me.
See, well, that's another part of this album and the reception that it got. It didn't get a very warm reception when it came out because you're right. You're following Dookie. I mean, you're following one of honestly the biggest albums of all time.
Yep.
One of the most beloved albums in the genre, at least. How do you do that? You're not gonna be able to please people after that. And I think that this is one of those albums that as years went on, people have learned to appreciate it more.
I agree. Actually, I really do. So now let's jump to the late 90s. Let's talk about Nimrod. Nimrod from 1997. Truthfully, I'm gonna just shed some light on it really quick. This album has so much experimentation on it. I think in response to Insomniac, they were like, we need to change it up a little bit. We need to release an acoustic ballad as a single. Mm-hmm. We'll get that in a little bit. But how would you talk about, what's your take on Nimrod, my friend?
Pretty much what you said. I mean, the experimentation on this album, by far, their most experimental album to date in their career, potentially their most experimental as a whole in their entire discography. I mean, you got songs with the harmonica, you got songs with the horn section, you got like a smooth jazz instrumental on it. You have a song where he's doing like metal growls. It's the amount of genres and different sounds that they hit on this album is very impressive. It's their longest album up to this point.
Correct.
I don't think it's their longest in their catalog. I think 21st Century Breakdown might be a bit longer in terms of runtime. But 18 songs. The track list as a whole, I love that they didn't end it on Good Riddance. They could have done the cop out, let's end it on the acoustic ballad, but they didn't. What I love about it is they put Prosthetic Head as the closer, because after you hear Good Riddance, you're like, oh, that's the end of the album. Then you hear the way it kicks in that intro is like, oh, there's another song, and it goes out with a bang, which I really like. I agree. One thing I will say about this album, in a negative way, but it's not towards the album itself, I think that they picked the wrong songs to be singles, with the exception of Good Riddance.
Okay.
I think that there were a couple other choices that could have been better. I think Nice Guys Finished Last is an okay song for a single. I think that Scattered would have been a much better choice.
I agree.
There are some great songs that I understand why they weren't singles, but I mean, my high points of the album are actually none of the singles. I would put mine as Uptight, Walking Alone, Scattered, which Scattered does still make live appearances,
Yes.
and The Grouch. The Grouch is my favorite song on here. It's so good. And the older you get, the more the more you relate to it. But I think that the deep cuts of this album is really where it shines. And lyrically, I think it's some of his best, even though he said he would never write an album the way he did this one again. He didn't go into the studio. This is the only album he went into the studio without lyrics finished. And it doesn't seem like it was a pleasant experience for him.
Yeah.
But I think it worked out. I think lyrically it's very solid, especially that's the reason that I put songs like Uptight, Scattered, and Walking Alone in there as my top ones. Same thing, All the Time and Worry Rock are fantastic.
Yep.
The only two low points I would put on here for me are Take Back and Last Ride In.
Okay.
But man, the Take Back mostly because I don't listen to Green Day for like the growls. Trust me, I love that kind of music. A lot of music I listen to is that. I just don't think it necessarily worked out in the context of this album. Last Ride In it's good. It's a nice little background thing. Don't necessarily need it. But I love this album. I love the experimentation. I think this is where we started to see the Green Day that still exists today. I don't think we'd have the Green Day that is around today if it wasn't for the experimentation on this album. And that's just my conjecture, but I think that this is where they really discovered that, oh yeah, we don't have to just be a straight punk or pop punk band. We can experiment with our sound more.
Yeah, I mean, experimenting with sound was a key factor. I mean, starting off with just the track listing really quick. Nice Guys Finished Last, Hitching a Ride, The Grouch, as you said, the more you get older. Redundant, great track. Scattered, incredible, All the Time. Worry Rock, Platypus, I Hate You. It just makes me laugh sometimes.
So
it's really, it's really fast too. I forget how fast it is. Uptight's great. Last Ride In, the instrumental, I like it a lot. Jinx, Hashishinka, how do you say that?
Hashinka?
Hashinka, let's just go with that.
Yeah.
Walking Alone, I thought was great. When I was going back to it, I was like, wow. Reject, Take Back, King for a Day is just hysterical. It's just a fun, stupid, hysterical song. King for a Day. Good Riddance, Time of Your Life, and Prosthetic Head. Just full disclosure. Just a personal backstory, really quick, with Good Riddance and Time of Your Life. The day I was born, Kyle, the day I was born, my mother and father were on their way to the hospital, and the song that came on the radio, the last song that was on the radio that was on before they went in, was Good Riddance, Time of Your Life. So my birthday has always been associated with that song for some reason. It is in my top 25 favorite songs of all time because of that reason alone. And I don't know if you knew this. I was looking at the history of the song, Good Riddance. Apparently, he written it a couple years beforehand.
Yes, it was actually written around the days of Dookie. I think it was after Dookie came out, but between Dookie and an Insomniac, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I can see why they wouldn't have put it out with Insomniac if that's the case. It definitely wouldn't have fit in there. There is floating around an earlier version of the song. It sounds pretty much the same for the most part,
right?
But you can find that or floating around there.
I was gonna say, just want to let you know, I don't know if you heard about this, but you play bass, you play guitar. I wasn't sure if you had heard about this or not, but the song actually was for those of you who play guitar and know this song, the song is in the key of G. It was originally, and I found this out, it was originally in the key of G flat. I don't know if you ever knew that. I looked at that at one point.
That's not too surprising.
Yeah.
That's not too surprising. They up until I think it was Nimrod, their songs were usually a half step down. They usually played Dookie and Insomniac and things before that. I think Nimrod was the first album where they started going standard tuning for most of it. So that's not surprising to me that they would have took the key down, took the key up a little bit.
Right.
And I do think that Nimrod, I think this album is really where he started to shine as a singer. I think his voice on this album, it's fantastic. I think it's probably his best vocal performance to this point in their career. There's more, rather than just pop punk vocals, there's more examples of him being just a solid singer rather than just a good pop punk or punk vocalist, you know?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. But just one more thing about Good Riddance really quick. Was that the no, I don't mean the tuning was in G flat. I mean the key was in G flat.
Yes.
That's what I found. Yeah. I wasn't sure if I made that clear or not. But like, but yeah, they're talking about experimentation, right? Playing in G flat. Ooh.
I do also, if we're talking about Good Riddance,
yeah,
we can't ignore what really blew the song up, that Seinfeld finale.
Yes, the last episode of Seinfeld. That's
really right. That's what made this song into the staple that it is today.
Yep.
Really brought it into like the cultural mainstream. But I'm glad it did. A funny story to me about this song is, so when this album came out, I was like 2 years old. But in elementary school, when I first got into the band, it was American Idiot got me into the band, which we'll get into later. But Good Riddance, when I went out, and then because after American Idiot, I went out and bought the albums before it. And when I got Nimrod, I got to Good Riddance. And of course, I'd heard the song around all the time. It's a massive song. How could you not hear it?
Right.
It came on, I was like, this is Green Day. It just like took me aback because I never really thought about it before, being a kid. And it came on, it's like, wow, I never would have guessed this is Green Day. So I just remember like coming to that epiphany while the album was on. I was like, wow. And that was kind of one of my first really realizations that like this band can really do anything.
Yeah. I mean, they've proven themselves that they can do anything they put their mind to. So,
yep.
Any other comments before we rank Nimrod by chance or no?
No, just that I've always loved this album ever since the day I got it.
Yeah.
Production wise, it's great. It holds up very strongly, and absolute iconic album. I think it's up there with their best. Why I put it at number 4.
You had me scared. I was like, wait, is he gonna say number 7? What's going on here, buddy?
Number 13. No.
The worst album they've ever made. I will say this too. Just really quick. Mine is at number 4 as well. Oh, just a solid album. It really showed their experimentation. Where they ended up going was from the result of their experimentation here. It was released, I just want to point this out, on October 14th, 1997. And I was born on October 15th, 1998. So I'm feeling pretty good right now. Thank you, Nimrod. But yeah, all around just a stone cold classic. And mine is at number 4 as well. My ranking number 4 for Nimrod. Are you ready to go to Warning?
Yep.
Oh boy, Warning. My personal opinion, their experimentation of Good Riddance and the acoustic guitar really cemented them to say, let's try and make an album that has more acoustics in it.
Yes.
Am I wrong or right?
Oh, no, you're 100% right. That's a big thing with this album. And real quick, you just made me just want to segue back to Redundant for a minute. A recording a different mix, an alternate mix of Redundant actually just surfaced the other day from, I think it's from 98.
Oh, wow.
I think it's when they were toying with releasing it as a single, if I'm not mistaken. But it seems that the success of Good Riddance, there's a lot more acoustic guitar prominent in that mix of Redundant. It reminds me of if you put Redundant on Warning, what it probably would have sounded like. So I do think that was a conscious decision going into Warning. This was also their album only executively produced by Rob Cavallo. They mainly were the producers for themselves on this one. Whether or not that was a good choice, it depends who you talk to.
Right.
Like you said, they definitely experimented more with acoustics here. Pretty much the entire album is acoustically driven. There's really not much distortion on here at all. That doesn't mean it's a bad album. I think this album has some great songs, but this one, I was talking about how Insomniac had that 180 effect on me. So did this album, but in the opposite way. When I was younger, I absolutely adored this album. I loved it. Now, when I listened through it again, and like as years went on, I noticed it, but then when I went back and just was really thinking about it, it doesn't hold up as well to me, especially now. I don't know. There's something about it just doesn't stick with me as well. Don't get me wrong. That's like Church on Sunday, incredible song. Castaway, Hold On is one of the top tier, probably my favorite on the album, honestly. And then you got your singles, Waiting, Minority, even Warning. It's a good album still. I just think that they took the experimentation in the way that maybe they shouldn't have. And really, after this album kind of flopped a bit and really kind of made them reevaluate themselves as a band afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I really like, it is a solid album overall. I mean, if you really like break it down, let's look at the track listing while we're at it too. Warning, great opener. Blood, Sex, and Booze, Church on Sunday, Fashion Victim, Castaway. The lyrics written by all of them on Misery, I found out. Deadbeat Holiday, Hold On, Jackass, Waiting, Minority, and Macy's Day Parade.
Yeah.
12 songs.
So I just want to hit Misery real quick before I forget about it. It's my low point of the album.
Okay.
I think that as a song and a songwriting perspective, it's great. I love what they do from a storytelling perspective. It's just kind of a drag to get through sometimes.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. It's not that I dislike the song. I think that it really shows talent as storytellers on it. But it just kind of drags. It has like that folk sound to it, which I'm not really into. Just want to hit on that real quick. The rest of it, Macy's Day Parade, really kind of their first political song, which is great to see. I think that they're at their best when they're passionate about stuff, and I think that that was really the start.
I agree. I mean, I didn't know. I actually, the more I listened to it, I didn't realize Macy's Day Parade was that political. I didn't realize what it was until.
It's not terribly.
Yeah.
It's not like the most overtly political, but it's definitely like their first foray into like toying with that kind of style of songwriting, and it works. That's pretty much my take on the album. Is it has great songs. It's just a stylistic choice that kind of like Insomniac was, an outlier in their career for that sound. This one is as well, but not for a good reason in my books anyway.
Yeah, it's fine. All good. I mean, I didn't know it was until you just said that, truthfully. Excuse me. But the standouts for me personally are Warning, Church on Sunday. Was it Warning, Church on Sunday? Waiting, Minority, and Macy's Day Parade. Just because, like, only reason because it was a lot. It was an album. They closed the album on a quiet note, not a loud note. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That always just stuck with me for some reason, but that's me.
No, Mason Day Parade is a fantastic song and a great closer.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But for some reason, whenever I'm listening to my Green Day in my car, I'm like, they warning, church on Sunday, waiting, minority, all just like hit me hard, and I love it. I'm driving fast, whatever. But so great. Those are the standouts to me personally. The rest of the album, it's just I'm not. I go. It was my first time listening to it all the way through recently for this one, but it's still a solid album overall. It is a really good record overall, truthfully. So yeah. Any other comments for Warning by chance?
I think that pretty much hits on all my main points from it. It's just it's not, he said, when they say parade, not a loud ending. And I think that works for this album. Usually I'll criticize bands when they do the cop out, slow acoustic ballad ending.
Right.
But for an album like this, I think it works because the album itself is not loud. There's nothing that you would classify like as loud on this album, except maybe the ending of Waiting, where it kicks back in like that.
Yeah.
Other than that, songwriting wise, it's very good. Just like on Misery, like songs like Hold On, there's great songwriting on display. It's not a bad album by any means. I just think that it was a direction that may not have been the right step for the band to go at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the low sales at the time really reflected that and really did make them, I think in interviews they've said that it was the one time that they weren't sure of their future as a band or whatever they said about that.
Yeah, I mean, and when we get to American Idiot, that album did save their career, literally, if you think about it. So
yeah.
Where does excuse me, I'm still coughing like crazy. I'm sorry. Where does Warning rank for you, my friend?
So for all those reasons, I'd probably have to put it at 10 because I don't find myself going back to it as much as I did years ago. Okay. I go back to certain songs on it, but then other ones I'll listen to them like on shuffle, but I don't purposely seek out to listen to Warning very much lately. So for that reason, I'd have to put it at 10. Also, same thing like production wise, I wish there was a little more distorted. I don't need fully distorted loud guitars all the time, but I think a whole album of acoustically driven guitars was a little much. So I'd have to put it at 10. Okay.
That's fair. I put it a little bit higher than you. I put it number 7 only because it is still that early in their career in 90, Green Day vibe to me personally. I do like it, enough to put it that high. But it's because it's before they completely got like super duper mainstream, you know what I mean? Because they were still mainstream, but then they took a dip with this one. I think I'm actually a big fan of when bands in general, like they do things during certain parts of their career, like during like a creative rut, if you will, like during a creative like different process, and they make albums like this. I like that. I like when I'll just give you an example, like when Aerosmith came back, like the mid to late like 79, 80, they were going a really rough patch. They made some good albums, good stuff, but it wasn't like it's just interesting to see how like that stuff happens with certain bands. Like they were so popular, then they fell down, and then they got like picked back up, of course. But this happened with Green Day as well, and I feel like this is the album that did that. But for me, it's at number 7.
So, I agree. That's a pretty fair placement where I think most people would probably put it. I think that, like you said, it's very interesting. I couldn't imagine their career without it. I don't think that if they didn't have the flop of this album, I don't think they would have blown up again a few years later. I think that this was really like what really kind of like the kick to be like, all right, we gotta fire on all cylinders for the next one.
Yeah, and they sure did. I will say this too, as far as like, I feel like this album had to. I also just want to sign up before we get to the next album. I feel like this era of Green Day had to, quote unquote, die to get the era that we got. If that makes any sense to you, being that
I agree with that. I agree with that. And when we get to the end of this, I have a little thing I want to say about the different eras of the band as a whole, but I'll save that till the end because I think that it's pretty interesting and goes along with the point that you just made.
Yeah, that's fine. But let's, man, you ready to talk about it?
Oh yeah, let's get into it.
One of the biggest, most commercially successful albums of the 2000s, my friend.
I would argue of all time.
I agree with that completely. I second that actually. It's definitely one of the biggest, most culturally incredible, like just albums of all time, known as American Idiot. I'm gonna just pull up the tab here. American Idiot. Not Bill. Kyle. I'm thinking my other show for a second. Kyle. American Idiot. Talk to me.
This was the album that did it for me. This was the album that not only got me into the band, but also got me really into music in general. As pretty much everyone that knows me knows, music is a massive part of my life. This is the album that did that. The year it came out, 2004. I remember I was at a daycare at the time, and my buddy brings in a CD player, and he's like, "You gotta check out this CD that I just got." I'm like, okay, at the time I was still a music fan, but it was mostly things like that I would listen to in like my dad's car, specifically like Metallica, Ozzy, Rush, Boston, your usual things like that. And I love that stuff. But I put the headphones on my head. The opening chords to American Idiot kicked in. And that just right there, I was hooked. From the opening chords of the album, I went out that weekend, the first album I ever bought with my own money, and bought the album, and that was it. Sent me on a whole other, that changed my life really. Even the album cover, iconic. And it even showed, just even putting the word presents in there, like Green Day presents American Idiot, is like, what you're getting. You're getting an epic ride, start to finish. There's a reason that it got the Broadway musical. Whether or not people like that is, that's on them. I think that it works very well. The story is very well done. Really, from Warning to this is such a change. And it's a change I think needed to happen. And like we just said, I don't think it's a change that would have happened had Warning not been kind of the failure that it was. And with that, I just want to point out that there was the step of Cigarettes and Valentines in between. Supposed, because I don't believe their story. And I think that pretty much everyone's on the same page with that now, that the masters of Cigarettes and Valentines got stolen from the studio. I think if that happened, it would have leaked long ago. I think that they completed the album and it's just not what they wanted to release. That's my opinion on it. I'm hoping that someday we do get to hear what that album would have been. And it's pretty much confirmed that we have heard certain songs from it in different forms, like some of the Foxborough Hot Tub songs, some of the network songs that was a side project prior to American Idiot coming out. Some of the bonus tracks from American Idiot, they played Cigarettes and Valentines live and put it on the live album during the 21st Century Breakdown tour. Mm-hmm. I would love a studio version of what that album would have been. Mm. Now, in the meantime, I just want to fill in the gaps between Warning and American Idiot real quick, if that's all right with you.
Take your time.
Between those, you could tell the band was in kind of a rut after Warning by the fact that we got a greatest hits album. And at the time, greatest hits albums, and even today a little bit, were mainly put out by bands that were kind of on the downslope, trying to cash in on, old songs, which greatest hits albums made a lot more sense at the time. There's a reason that we don't really see many bands doing them anymore. So they had international super hits, and then they put out Shenanigans, which is a great compilation, but it's a bunch of B-sides. They're all very good. I just want to say that they're all very good and had one new song on it. But most people kind of count it as an album because a lot of people didn't even realize that it was B-sides because they were, most people hadn't heard those songs. So for a band to release two compilations, it kind of just shows like, oh, they were kind of like floundering at that point. Like, where are they going to go from here? And then they come out with American Idiot. And Dookie was big, but it was no American Idiot. This album, I remember everyone had it. Everyone I knew had this album. Even people that only had like one CD at the time or whatever, it was American Idiot if they had one. It was so big. You couldn't get away from the songs, specifically Boulevard of Broken Dreams. To this day, you can't get away from. If I never heard Boulevard of Broken Dreams again, I'd be happy. I am so played out on that song that the only time I ever listen to it anymore is when they play it live. I'm going to be honest. Because nowadays you can't get away from it anywhere. It still comes on mainstream radio, comes on rock radio. It's old enough now where it comes on classic rock radio.
Yes.
So you can't escape it. But this album had, we're talking about experimental with, Nimrod, Jesus of Suburbia, and Homecoming, two 9-minute epics on the same album, no less.
Yes.
And they do it seamlessly. It truly an astounding album. Every time I listen to it, still feels like the first time I'm listening to it.
I agree.
It really brings back so many memories. And Spotify needs to separate the songs. That's all I'll say on that part. But it drives me nuts that they did that. So many of the band's iconic songs, to the point where half of their set these days is American Idiot and Dookie, or maybe a little more than half at this point. And the songs are so good that that's not necessarily a bad thing. And they're so good live that they could play that for the rest of their career and no one would care. Like you see on the chat boards, like everyone like, oh, they're playing the same set list again. But you go to the shows and all those people are like, I don't even care. It's still amazing.
Yeah.
So I'll let you take your turn on that one now. Just gotta get that out there. I love this album. Brings back so many childhood memories. It's absolutely iconic. And I do just want to say, when I talk about Homecoming and Jesus of Suburbia, Homecoming gets overshadowed so much by Jesus of Suburbia.
Yes.
Maybe for, good reason. But I think that Homecoming is a absolutely incredible song. I actually slightly prefer it, just ever so slightly. But man, what an album to come back with and not only be relevant, like not only have a hit album, but have had 2 hit albums and be massive in 2 separate decades is a feat that hardly any bands do. Yeah. And Green Day is one of the few.
It's hard to follow up with that. It's hard to follow up everything that Kyle has just said and then some. But what can you say about this album? Everything from the album artwork to the story, through like the hit singles, to the first single, which was the title track, American Idiot. And it was like, oh, Green Day's back. What,
Yeah. And what a song to come back with.
Yes.
At the time, you gotta remember, like at the time, no one was making like political protest songs. Like it was a frowned upon thing. And people that did do it, a lot of times would get kind of shunned, like, hey, we don't do this. So the fact that they were like, you know what, screw it, we're coming back with an entire album that's essentially like a protest album for the time.
Of the time, yeah.
And went massive with it. It's astounding.
It's like if you look back prior to September 21st, 2004, which is when the album came out. If you look before it, you say, what? American Idiot's the first single, and I hear it's going to be great, and it's heavily politicized as well about whatever. You in my mind, I'm like, how are they going to do that? How is this album going to work? And then sure enough, boom, there it is. They hit a grand slam, to use baseball terms, with this record. They stole the show that needed to be stolen. Like, and let's not forget, American Idiot, it was their first Hot 100 hit too. I don't know if you knew that, but like all the other radio hits were not Hot 100 hits. I don't know if you ever knew that.
I did not know that. That's actually pretty shocking.
So like Good Riddance wasn't all like not Hot 100, was just regular airplay. Brain Stew, Best in Case, those all topped the Hot Rock charts, but that was it. This was their first American Idiot. The single was their first mainstream Hot 100 hit, and then Holiday hit the charts. Wake Me Up When September Ends, we'll get to in a second. And the Boulevard of Broken Dreams won like Grammy Record of the Year. I mean, I know I agree with you. It is played out a little bit, yes, but like it's still, when you listen to it though, it still sounds fresh.
Yes.
And in 100 years, when Green Day is sadly not with us anymore, they're still going to be having these songs played on the radio.
Yes, they're timeless songs, and Rob Cavallo's production on it.
Yes,
I mean, the guy's a genius. It's really, you can't speak highly enough about Rob Cavallo and his production skills. I think he really brings out the best in the band. And I don't know if you have seen, but they're essentially confirmed that they're working with him again on whatever they have coming up, which I am psyched for, because I think he is the producer for the band.
I agree with that. I mean, 1972, hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 50 years coming. Anyways, I digress. So let's get into the track listing, shall we? For American Idiot. I mean, Kyle has said enough about this record, and I've said my share. But did I tell you this guy was good? American Idiot, Jesus of Suburbia, broken into 5 parts, called Jesus of Suburbia, City of the Damned, I Don't Care, Dearly Beloved, Tales of Another Broken Home. 9-minute song broken into 5 parts, broken into one song. Incredible too. Holiday, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Are We the Waiting, Saint Jimmy, Give Me Novocaine, She's a Rebel, Extraordinary Girl, Letter Bomb, I want to get to that in a second too, Wake Me Up When September Ends, and Homecoming, which is broken up into 5 different parts as well. The Death of Saint Jimmy, East 12th Street, Nobody Likes You, Rock and Roll Girlfriend, We're Coming Home Again, and What's Her Name? Damn, what a track listing.
Yeah. I honestly can't say that I have any specific high points of the album. It's very rare that a band puts out a perfect album.
Yes.
This is, if not a perfect album, damn close to a perfect album.
I agree 100%, without a doubt. And one of the things that I love about Green Day, with American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown, they did it to some extent with Revolution Radio. We'll get that when we get there, but it tells a story. It tells a narrative of a character, the Jesus of Suburbia, and he goes. This what they you got. I think I don't know if you knew this, but like they listen to Broadway musicals. They listen to Tommy by the Who. They listen to Quadrophenia by the Who. They listen to a lot of U2 as well. If you heard that as well, just to experiment with different sounds, different storytelling, different narrative to make this album what it is today. And I am glad they did.
Absolutely.
The only song though that does not coincide with the story, and I feel like they were looking for a hit single, truthfully, with it, but it's a very sad, true story of Wake Me Up When September Ends.
Yeah.
Because for those who don't know, and as great as memes are, that meme is not right in my opinion. It's about Billy's dad and how he died when he was like 10, and and whatnot, and it's just that's a more serious matter. It's not really like Wake Me Up When September Ends. It's not a meme. It should be recognized as something symbolic of his life, truthfully. So
Yeah, and like you said, it is the one song that doesn't really fit the theme of the album. I mean, you can kind of twist it to make it fit in certain ways. I think the music video did a very good job of doing that, having it be like a guy going off to war and like like following September 11th. But yeah, really, the song is about his dad. I mean, there have been times where he's like choked up on stage about it.
Yeah,
and it recently made a live comeback. It was taken off at least in full for a couple of years that they didn't play the full song. Occasionally he would do like the acoustic part, but it's a great song. Really, really iconic, great hit. And yeah, like you said, the memes there. I'm sure he's not a big fan of that meme.
He even said, "quote I'm gonna write an album. No, what is it? I'm gonna write a song called Shut the Fuck the Fuck Up When October Begins," or whatever, like word for word. He's tired of it because it's about his dad.
And even so, it's just a played out meme at this point.
Unfortunately,
like every year. The album is almost 20 years old. God, but yeah, almost 20 years old, and it's still going. And while we're talking about the songs in particular, What's Her Name as an album closer?
Yes,
so good. And what a good way to wrap up the story too. Like not just good sonically and like songwriting wise, but such a good like wrap up to the album, being like just like a look back on everything.
I agree, man. It's just it's become such a staple of their live shows. A lot of the theatrical stuff they do live is based on this show. Is based on this album, excuse me. I mean, it's a solid album. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised at 2024 rolls around. Who say they don't do a 20th anniversary tour?
I'd be down for it as long as they play some other stuff too, because they'll have some time to fill. But I'd be 100% down for it. The other thing I want to point out, they did do that with Dookie at a couple shows.
Yeah,
years festivals back. That was almost 10 years ago now they did those. But anyway, Jesus of Suburbia. That is still like the staple encore song of their set list.
Yes.
That's insane. The fact that a 9-minute song has been a live staple since 2004.
Yeah.
And is a hit every night with both like hardcore fans and just casual fans. That's nuts. That's absolutely insane. Like usually when you have bands that have songs like that and they're bigger songs, they're bands with relatively like what you would call like cult followings, like your prog bands, like Rush.
Yep.
Like it's very rare you see casual Rush fans at a show. When you're at a Rush show, it's all hardcore fans. It just how it is. I've been to like a handful of them and they were great, but you know what you're getting into there. The fact that Green Day can play a 9-minute song every night and everyone is into it and absolutely loves it is a staple to how good the song is.
I agree, man. I agree. There's one thing I wanted to mention about oh man, what was it? Anyways, it's about like the actual like the American. You didn't see the American Idiot tour, did you?
The like the actual tour or the Broadway show we're talking about?
The tour in 2004 and 5.
No, I was still young at that point.
Yeah, because you're.
So no, I missed that unfortunately.
Because I'm younger than you. I mean, that's no slur to you at all. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, I get it, JT. I'm older, right?
It's all good. It's all good, buddy. But I mean, if they did like an American Idiot like 20th anniversary tour in 2024, I mean, that'd be crazy as well. Like, because it'd be 20 years since the album came out, they just play the whole thing from start to finish. Dude, you have my money. So that'd be cool. Overall, stone cold classic. One of the greatest albums of the decade, of the 2000s in general. Still holds up. Still is an incredible album from start to finish. Sounds fresh as can be. Can't believe we're going to do this. Where does this rank amongst your Green Day albums? I'm actually kind of scared, but.
All right. Well, after everything I said about it.
Oh, no.
Well, no. So I also we were talking about eras and warning. I just want to say that
Yeah.
reinvention wise, not only their sound got reinvented, their entire image was reinvented at this point.
Yes.
When you look
Yes.
at American Idiot onwards versus the 90s Green Day and even 2000 with Warning, it's like a completely different band in a way. Um, but with all the love that I gave this album, isn't it obvious where I put this, JT? Number two.
Well, I know. I know. I hate to say this, but I kind of knew that based on where we're going. But
Yep.
I don't blame you. It is one of when I feel like when people think of Green Day, they might actually think of American Idiot more than Dookie, truthfully.
Probably almost assuredly at this point, the younger
At,
fans anyway.
at this point, like the kids who are like, "Oh, what's that song?" Like, yeah, put September Ends, whatever, right? Or Sugar, we're going down at this point, right? Like that's old too. If we forget how old that is.
Mhm.
But you're gonna think I'm crazy, and I think this is where I think I don't know if you I don't know if you would think this of me. Full disclosure, Kyle, this is my number one.
I'm not surprised. I would say it's most people's number one. I would say it's
Okay.
like 80 to 90% of people's number one.
Okay. And for all the reasons we listed, it is a staple of their live shows. The title track from every song on the album, from the Grammys it won to 16 million copies sold worldwide of one album, certified 6 times platinum as of 2013. Stone Cold classic, pop punk opera. If you've not heard this album, get on it now. Let's put it that way. So it is my number one album for Green Day. But we have to keep going. There's only so much time we have in the world for this. Let's talk about their next album. Came out 5 years, 5 years later, right? 5 years later.
Yep, 2009.
And this, I'm going to go first because I know you have a lot to say. But I will say this. Full disclosure, if you want to go more in depth with this next album, 21st Century Breakdown, we're not going to spend too much light on it, but because full disclosure, we did our very first episode of Career Retrospectives. We talked about this album in its entire fucking hour. So check it out there too. This album, when I read a critic review recently, just when the album first came out, like 2000, I read Rolling Stone's review of it. And one of the things that caught my attention was this is the same band that once said on record that like I've got no motivation. Where is my quoting Longview? This is the same band that wrote Longview that made American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown. Because the review was like 5 stars, like album of the year, best album they've ever, whatever. I love this record. It is a great album. It is an hour and 9 minutes long. I don't care how long it is. It's a great album. Broken into 3 acts. Kyle, share some love.
All right. So I'm gonna keep this one relatively short because of the video that we've done previously on it. Now, we just talked about how great American Idiot was. This album, while not being as iconic and not having nearly as many hits as American Idiot,
correct,
it took what American Idiot did and built on it. Mm-hmm. Now, people can argue, oh, they just tried to make American Idiot again. I don't think that's necessarily the case. Yes, it's another like concept album in a way, but it's not like a story like American Idiot was. It's more of a loose concept. And man, this album, front to back, is, full disclosure, my favorite album of all time. Every time I hear this, like American Idiot, it's like the first time I'm hearing it all over again. It's so good. The production on it, I'm going to say it's my favorite production, like production wise, Green Day's best album, best they've ever sounded. The amount of care and work that went into this album is absolutely insane. I mean, Billy's gone on record saying that making this album was extremely difficult on him. Now, I do wish that it performed better on the charts. I think that Butch Vig was, I would love to see them work with him again. Having said that, I think that them going back with Rob Cavallo is the right choice at this time. If we ever do get another Butch Vig produced album again, I'll be very happy. I think he did incredible on this. But man, just like American Idiot, every song on this, incredible front to back, flows so well. Can't say enough about how good it is. You know, if you want to hear like more of my in-depth thoughts on it, you can go back and listen to or watch our previous video podcast on it. But really, they kicked up what they did on American Idiot. The amount of just overlapping guitar parts, acoustics, piano on here.
Yeah.
Billy's vocals on this, I think, are the best overall performance he's ever given on vocals on an album consistently. He sounds incredible front to back. We had the longest wait between Green Day albums ever from American Idiot to this point, given we did get Foxborough Hot Tubs like halfway through, and that was a fun side project as well. But God, the songwriting on this album, I don't think can be rivaled by anything that they've done before or since, with the exception of American Idiot. But even then, this album has 3 of my favorite Green Day songs of all time on it. 21st Century Breakdown, the title track. What a way to open the album, coming off Song of the Century like that. American Eulogy, another one of my favorites. I feel like it doesn't get as much love as it should. And The Static Age, great song. I will say about this album, I don't think, much like Nimrod, I don't think the singles were picked very well.
I agree.
I think that 21st Century Breakdown, fantastic single choice, given it is slightly long for a single at the time, 2009. That's when songs really started to be shorter on the radio.
I agree.
East Jesus Nowhere, I think, was a pretty good choice. 21 Guns, excellent choice, even though it got overplayed to death. Know Your Enemy, I thought, was a terrible choice. Now, keep in mind, this was the lead single of this album. This album was also the first time as a Green Day fan that I got to experience an album cycle beginning, like from the beginning. I remember I happened to be homesick from school the day Know Your Enemy dropped. I had no idea it was coming out. All of a sudden, it was just like, oh, there's a new Green Day song. I was like, oh, keep in mind, this is like 2009, and internet and social media wasn't exactly what it is today. Mm-hmm. So I just happened to see it online. I was like, oh, no way. I listened to it and I thought, wow, I am super let down by that. After what American Idiot was, I was expecting so much bigger. So I think that they should have done something different for that. Like Before the Lobotomy, I think should have been a single. I think Last Night on Earth would have made a great radio single. But anyway, I'll kind of wrap it up there, just because of, we've touched on this album so much. The only song that I would put as a potential low point, but I think it works in context of the album itself, Christian's Inferno.
Okay.
It works in context of the album. It's not really the greatest song on there, if we're going to be honest. But I adore this album. I have so many great memories with it, and I would love to see a return to form in like this style at some point. And if we get that, I'll be happy. And if not, that's fine too. I still have this album.
Well, I agree with you that the single, I agree with you on the single, the 21 Guns being released as a single, very smart choice.
Yes.
East Jesus Nowhere, it's 4 minutes long. Could it have been a good single? I don't know offhand. 21st Century Breakdown, I agree. It's a great choice for a single. They could have. Did they do a radio edit for it or no?
I don't believe there's a radio edit. So the thing with 21st Century Breakdown, the single choices, is most of the songs people don't even. So there was a single edit. It was not much shorter, just cut down the intro, I believe.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't realize is a lot of songs that were singles, people don't even realize were singles because they didn't do that well.
Right. Unfortunately.
They did do a great live performance. I forget what award show it was of East Jesus Nowhere. Might have been the Grammys. But
Okay.
that was good. Last of the American Girls is an okay choice, I guess, but it's a little, I don't know.
Wasn't that about Billy's wife at all? I forgot that.
Yeah.
This is your favorite album of all time. This is your favorite Green Day album of all time.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, the standout tracks for me, and I'll get to why I love it so much in a second too. But the title track, 21st Century Breakdown, Know Your Enemy, Viva La Gloria is phenomenal. It really showed how they can do the piano well.
Yep.
Last on Earth, I think, is a great ballad. Truthfully, I mean, Last on Earth, I think is just it's wonderful. Closed out their heroes and cons section. East Jesus Nowhere is just, I think it's violent. It's just a violent guitar driven, so I love it. I do like Last of the American Girls a lot, actually, truthfully. Viva La Gloria, Little Girl is it's like part 2, I guess you could say, to Viva La Gloria. Still great though. And what's the other one? It's fun. And 21 Guns, it's funny. 21 Guns. I don't know if you found this interesting or not, but 21 Guns charted on the Hot 100 number 21. The song is called 21 Guns. It is 5 minutes and 21 seconds long. And on top of that, it is on an album called 21st Century Breakdown. I don't know if you ever picked up on that, but I just thought that was so fascinating.
It's a perfect storm. And
yeah.
Also, just want to say, just think about 21 Guns, just think about the overall era of the band here.
Yeah.
Not only is this my favorite, like musically my favorite album, aesthetically, their merch designs, their tour like backdrops, the album artwork on this, like the liner notes, all the artwork associated with this, and the style of the band, like their outfits themselves.
Yeah,
by far my favorite, like aesthetically wise era of the band.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say just sort of side ending with "See the Light." The ending of that song loops back to the opening of 21st Century Breakdown with the opening of the chords there.
Yeah, and American Eulogy, same thing with Song of the Century. So yep. I love that they end it with those two callbacks.
Like, this is, again, guys, this is the same band that was saying, "I got no motivation. Where is my motivation?" in Longview. It's the same exact band. They matured. They grew up so well. I loved it. I love this album. Truthfully. The question is, my friend, where? Well, you kind of already said it, but just for the record, where does 21st Century Breakdown hold up for you as Green Day records comes along?
Number one. It's got to be number one. It's got to be. If we're talking, so with my list, it's all purely my opinion on my list here. Like, I'm not taking into consideration how well albums did or like cultural impacts, because I mean, if we're talking cultural impact, it's got to be American Idiot. But for me personally, 21st Century Breakdown, it's the Green Day album.
I put it at Don't Kill Me. No. It's actually number 2.
All right.
It is my number 2.
I thought you were going to say number 13 for a minute there.
It is my number 14 album. I put Shenanigans above it, clearly. 110% there. No. I'm just kidding. Honestly, though, I will say this. Everything from the production, again, if you can go back and listen to our initial episodes of Career Retrospectives, the production, the introduction of other instruments, the usage of different sounds, different effects, they're continuing off of American Idiot. And to be fair, I looked up this you mentioned about the chart success. As far as the Hot 100 goes, they're really only known for Know Your Enemy and 21 Guns from this album. But I will say this, the actual what do you call it? The actual charting of the album, it charted number 1 like all across the world, like Japanese number 1, Italy, Australia, number 2. The Billboard 200, it was like Spanish, Spain, Like the UK, it was one of their best charting albums because it was coming off of American
Oh
Idiot.
yeah, coming off American Idiot, and they didn't drop the ball coming
No,
off American Idiot either. Whereas I wouldn't say they dropped the ball personally, in my opinion, as we saw with my place on the list. But like Dookie into Insomniac
yeah,
was a little jarring. Like they didn't so much build on Dookie as they did just make a completely different sound. This album, they took American Idiot and said, we can do more with that.
yeah, and they did. They really pulled it together really well, and it was just an overall incredible, like just a. I'm gonna. I don't use this word often, but I'm gonna say this is a perfect album.
I would agree.
It is my number 2 though, because I do love American Idiot, but this is my number 2. And one last thing though before we go on, this album I feel like doesn't get the credit it deserves because it was a lot of work put into it. It was a full on a ton of work for the band, and they put out a product that I think should be shined on more than it already is.
I could not agree more. I think even the band themselves, they need to bring these songs back into the set list.
I mean, even if they open up with Song of the Century and then go to 21st Century Breakdown again.
Yep, I'd even be fine with that. Just please get rid of Know Your Enemy. I don't need that in the set list anymore. It's fun when you're there. I would just love a different song from even throw in East Jesus Nowhere. That song killed live. I do enjoy hearing 21 Guns live though, so they can keep that one.
Yeah.
I would just like at least one song from this album other than the usual two.
Hell, I wouldn't mind. To be honest, I would not even mind. What's the one? Last of the American Girls, or even
That'd be great too. And literally anything. Give me anything from it again.
Yeah, or even the American Eulogy. Anyone?
Yeah, I would kill for that one.
Exactly.
I think I only heard that one live once in person.
Lucky. I will say that. Lucky you. Anyways, 21st Century Breakdown. My number 2, Kyle's number 1. Let's talk about 2012's Uno from the trilogy, the beginning of the trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
You go first. I want to hear your input first, if that's okay.
Yeah. So the trilogy is a weird time to be a Green Day fan.
I agree.
It was. I don't want to say it was bad. I don't think the trilogy is bad at all. I think it was very jarring coming off of 21st Century Breakdown and that whole tour, that whole aesthetic and era of the band. This ushered in a kind of attempt to return to form of like the 90s sound, but the production choices were so weird.
Yeah.
The guitars are all clean for they're not even like clean, like because Warning was clean guitars, like acoustic guitars. Yeah. These are clean guitars, and it's weird. It's a weird stylistic choice. That said, there are absolutely incredible songs scattered throughout. I've always been of the mindset that you could have taken the trilogy as a whole, took the best songs from each album, and made one absolutely incredible, like 18-song Green Day album that would have done very well.
Completely agree. 100%.
Like, no doubt in my mind could have been a rival to the albums that came before it. But as it stands now, I have to review it as is. It's a very stripped back album compared to American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown, and that's very noticeable on first listen.
Yeah.
High points to me, Nuclear Family, fantastic way to kick off the trilogy and the album itself. Kill the DJ, I thought was great experimentation, and it worked out very well. Rusty James, lyrically, I think it's great. It's a very nostalgic song. Loss of Control and Fell for You are also great. Mm-hmm. But then you have songs on here like Sweet 16, I don't care for very much. I think it's very much a filler song. And Oh Love, the lead single of the trilogy itself, not only just Uno. I liked it at first, and now I skip it a lot. It's just very repetitive for being a 5-minute song, and kind of a weird way to end the album, I guess. As a whole, I do enjoy the album. I do enjoy the trilogy. It's just kind of not what I was expecting at the time from the band. I do come back to the trilogy very often, though. I will say that. And the Otis mix versions of the songs that they've released since then, certain songs, I think sound significantly better.
Okay.
They did, I think Fell For You was the first one they did. And then a couple years later, they did Oh Love and a couple other songs. But that's pretty much where I'm at with it. Is it's a good album. They tried to go back to more simple, like 90s style Green Day. I don't think they did it as well as they were hoping. I think it would have benefited from better production. And yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I mean, first off, writing a song in general is difficult, but writing a whole trilogy of albums
Yeah.
to begin with, full credit to them.
Well, that's one thing with Green Day is they've always been a band that when they're in the studio writes a lot of songs.
Yeah.
As most bands do. A lot of bands have that mindset going in that write together anyway. There are a lot of bands that one person predominantly writes and they go in to the studio with, here's essentially what the album's going to be. Green Day is one of those bands that they'll write a lot of songs. I think during Nimrod, they had something like 30, 40 plus songs written. At some point, they said, same thing, 21st Century Breakdown, I'm pretty sure had a lot.
I think they had 80 for that, if I'm not
Difference
mistaken.
is there's a reason that bands don't release every single thing that they write. With the trilogy, they were like, well, we have like 30 something songs that we kind of like all of these songs. So let's just throw 30 something, like almost 40 songs out to the world in 3 months.
Yeah.
And yeah, as a fan, I'll take whatever they want to give me. They can give me like 200 demo recordings and I'll be happy. But in terms of an album, I think that it was a cool experiment. I do think this is a good first album for the trilogy.
Yeah, you and I are pretty much on the same page here. I mean, and I full disclosure, the trilogy is a very unique part of Green Day's career. I mean, is it my favorite part? No, I mean, I'm more of like an American Idiot, 21st Century Breakdown, Dookie, Insomniac, like a lot of their earlier stuff. This to me personally, the trilogy is not my favorite part of their career. Truthfully, I mean, I like what they did. Don't get me wrong. Do I like everything on it? No, I mean, Oh Love, yeah, it's repetitive. Sweet 16, I agree with you. It is what it is, unfortunately. But there's just a lot of songs that are just not that memorable, truthfully.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that Uno does have the benefit of being the first one. And I do think there are more memorable songs on here than the other two, which we'll get into. But I think that this whole era also, with Billy's iHeartRadio incident and going to rehab, the whole era kind of flopped, and then they stopped releasing singles and videos, didn't promote the albums. It really just a perfect storm of things that caused failure for the albums commercially, which I think is a shame. I think there are great songs on here, and I do like that Billy plays these songs with side projects when he plays out, like he did with the Long Shot. He played a few of the songs, and so I like that even if Green Day doesn't play them live, he doesn't forget about them.
That is good. I mean, that goes not just for this one, but for the whole trilogy as well.
Yeah.
So, but the question is, where does this rank amongst your Green Day albums?
This, for me, I do come back to it more than I do for Warning.
Okay.
I would have to put it at number 7.
Okay. All right.
One below Dookie on my controversial list.
Very controversial. How dare you put Doogie that low? I'm just kidding. As the start of the trilogy, man, you put yours number 7. I'm going to put mine here at number 9, only because I have other albums a little bit higher. Because the trilogy is just my full disclosure, it's my least knowledgeable part of Green Day, their whole career. Like I'm aware of it. I listen to these things all the way through. This album, Uno, Dos, and Trey, but listening to them, I was like, these are just I was not as familiar with them to begin with in general. So I put them as low. I put Uno at number 9 because of where, it's a good album overall. Don't get me wrong. And so is, Dawes and Trey, we'll get to in a second. But as far as like just in my knowledge of the band, I was not familiar with the band at all during this time. When they were, touring and whatnot too. I had to go. I literally was like, oh wait, when you first told me they released a trilogy, I was like, what? I was like, what? They released a trilogy of albums?
That happened to a lot of people when I told them about it. I remember even like when it came out, like the year after it came out, I remember I was at work one day and we were talking about music and I was like, oh yeah, Green Day's my favorite band. And they're like, oh, are they even still around? I was like, yeah, they just released 3 albums like 5 months ago. And they were like, what? I was like,
yeah,
oh yeah, you wouldn't know because no one promoted them at all. But yeah, they have like 36 new songs that just came out.
Oh my God. And that's what I mean. I'm like, what the hell? I had no idea that they released Uno, Dos, or Trey until you said that, because that's just my own knowledge. But yeah, so for me, I put Uno at number 9. But that is for me personally. Are you ready to go to Dos?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready.
I don't know if we're ever going to be ready. Let's talk about Dos for a second. The second album of the Green Day trilogy. Thoughts? I say that with precaution.
So, I like Dos as an album.
Okay.
Not as a Green Day album. I think that if another band put this out, it would be seen as a better album. When you tie the Green Day name to it, you listen to it and you think they could do better. It's definitely more, and I think they've even said it themselves at some point. This is essentially the second Foxborough Hot Tubs album. It has that garage rock vibe to it, and it has some really good songs, but it also has the lowest points of the trilogy by far, in my opinion. I think the intro track, See You Tonight, I don't like at all. It's one of the only, as I said before, there are 3 Green Day songs I just actively do not like. This is one of them. It just sounds like Billy whipped out his phone, recorded an acoustic intro, and then put it on the album. The rest of the songs, Nightlife, I don't mind the rapping on Nightlife. That's not my problem with it. A lot of people have a problem with Lady Cobra's rap. My problem is Billy's filtered vocals sound terrible. And then there's just a lot of filler, like Wild One. The Otis mix version of Wild One did make it a little bit better. Makeout Party. These are like 30, 40-year-old men at this point.
Yep.
So the lyrics are just like weird, cringy lyrics. Ashley, Baby Eyes, and Lady Cobra, and Wow That's Loud are all filler. You got song Amy is a great song. I like it as a closer. But Stray Heart is very fun. I like it. The only single on the album.
Yeah.
And Stop When the Red Lights Flash was good. That was fun live. And then Fuck Time, of course, it's predated the album by quite a few years because they used to play it as Foxborough Hot Tubs all the time. As I said, it's a good album. I think any other band would have been happy to put this out. And if another band put it out, I would like it more. But if I have to think of it as a Green Day album, it's a bit disappointing. I will say real quick, I forgot to mention somehow, Lazy Bones is one of my all-time favorite Green Day songs in general. I think lyrically, it might be, I don't want to say it's the best. It's up there with one of his best lyrically songs. That's great. The Otis mix version of that one made it somehow even better. So that's a plus on
it. Going through this and listening to this from start to finish, I was like, I got halfway through. I'm like, all right. Once I got the Stray Heart, I was like, okay, all right. I mean, it's not terrible. There's me personally. There's a lot of filler on here. Unfortunately,
a lot of the filler is the second half. Like you just said, you got to Stray Heart.
Yeah.
After that is where kind of, for me anyway, is where almost all the filler comes in.
Yeah, unfortunately. But like, wait, Lady Cobra featuring wait, you gotta explain that to me.
They have a song called Lady Cobra. It's kind of like a lead into Nightlife, but Lady Cobra is a rapper from her group. Oh my god, I can't remember the name right now. Like, oh, Knights of the Mystic Cobra or something. There's something
Okay.
like that. She's like I don't want to say a nobody rapper, but she's not popular.
Okay. I just first off saying that Green Day and rap, to me they don't go together. Green Day is a phenomenal rock band. I get if they want to feature someone on something, I get that, but this just did not make sense to me at all.
The
like,
bass line is great.
oh yeah, aside from that, yeah. But like I did like Amy quite a bit. I mean, I just stop when the red lights flash. I mean, I liked it too. There's not too much on here that I would go back to. Like if it was a life or death scenario, maybe. But like aside from that, not really too much. Where does Dose rank amongst your Green Day albums?
So I put it number 12.
Okay.
Right above 39 Smooth, just because of the production to me is a big aspect of music. And while I don't like the production of the trilogy, and Dose I don't think is that great of an album, I find myself coming back to some of the songs a little more than 39 Smooth, and I think that comes down to the production. So I had to put it over 39 Smooth.
Okay. This is my number 13, full disclosure.
Yeah, I could see that. It's
just not. It's like it's a weird point in the band's history, and I'm like, I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, not really. Stray Heart's good, Amy's good, but the rest of it's like, what's happening?
Yeah, it has its moments, but it just weird choice for them. I think if they put it out as Foxborough Hot Tubs, people would be more receptive to it.
I think so as well, actually, now that I think about it. So, but yeah, let's talk about. So mine is at number 13. Yours at number what? Number 9?
Number 12.
Number 12. Sorry. So, all right. So we're pretty much on the same page. That excuse me, still sick. Trey in 2012. This is a good. I like this one a lot more than Dose and Uno personally, but I'd love to hear what you have to say about Trey. Which Trey Cool is the drummer, of course.
Sure. So, trying to think the best way to say it, because I think it has the highest highs of the trilogy. I think the best songs of the trilogy, like my favorites of the trilogy, are on this album. Brutal Love.
Yeah.
Which I will die on the hill that Brutal Love is by far Billy's best vocal performance on any song. He kills it on that song, and it was great to see live on that tour, and I wish they would bring it back. X Kid is one of their top tier Green Day song. Dirty Rotten Bastards, great. Missing You, awesome. I think that this has the highest highs, but a decent amount of filler as well in a way.
I agree.
Like Little Boy Named Train, very much a filler song. Also shares some similarities with what song is it? I think it's Public Enemy #1 by Motley Crue.
Okay.
Not the first similar song to a Motley Crue song. There's a part in Jesus at Suburbia. It sounds just like On With the Show. But anyway, it's so when they announced the trilogy and we're talking about it, they described it as Uno was like the lead up to a party, Dose was the party, and then Trey was like the end of the party, like day after or whatever album. And I could see that. I think that analogy does work for the trilogy. But they also said that Trey was going to be a more like epic orchestral album. I don't think it was at all. When they described it like that, I was, people are anticipating, maybe something more along the lines of 21st Century Breakdown type songs. It's not what we got. you kind of thought you were getting that when it starts with Brutal Love, but then that's pretty much it. Um, as a whole, I think it's great. Um, I don't think it's bad. I just think that there's some filler on it that puts it a little lower than Here on Me. Drama Queen it has some weird lyrics that I'm not particularly fond of.
Right.
I think Walk Away is great. That one is rumored to be from Cigarettes and Valentines from years ago from those sessions, but there's no confirmation of that.
You figure out one of the best tracks on the album, 99 Revolutions.
So it's up there for me. It's just
Yeah.
not one of my top, but it's definitely up there on the album.
It's a good highlight. I like it. And like I said, they should take all the songs with numbers in them and make a number block at their show. They have to do that.
Avenue Serenade on there too.
Yes, we're gonna do just a deep cut central, just numbers. Green Day, if you're out there listening, do it on their your next tour. Go ahead after Hella Mega. But yeah, I mean, Brutal Love is really good. I like that one a lot. Execute, I thought was great too. Dirty 99 Revolutions, I do like a lot actually. Now that I think about it, I hear me like bopping out into the shower and when I get ready in the morning. Walkaway is great too. Overall, this is probably my favorite of the trilogy. Dose was a step down. Uno was really good, but Trey just holds up a lot more to me personally. Where does Trey rank for you for your Green Day albums?
So for me, Trey is right under Uno at number 8.
Okay.
That's mostly because I think there's slightly more, for me anyway, slightly more filler on Trey than Uno. But I think I would agree that Trey has the good songs on Trey are better than a lot of the songs on Uno. But I think consistently, I would have to give it to Uno a little bit more. So number 8 for me.
I agree. To me, personally, I put this at number 8 as well, only because it is this. I believe it is the strongest of the trilogy. There's enough good stuff on there to keep you entertained, that keep you going as a listener, and it is a solid album. It is the best of the trilogy, in my opinion. But that is me.
I do want to just say that
yes,
The Forgotten gets a really bad reputation for being featured in the Twilight movies.
Oh yes.
I don't think that's a big deal. Who cares? They probably got a lot of money for putting a song in that movie. If someone asked me to if they could use one of my songs in a movie, even if I didn't like it, I'd be like, sure, I'll take the money. Why not? Why wouldn't you? They were massive movies, so people need to get off their high horse about that.
I agree, actually.
I did think it was a little dumb to put Twilight in the actual music video.
Oh, yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. But I do very much enjoy Trey. Definitely a huge step up from Dose.
I agree. And full disclosure, it did somewhat set up their next album, not Demolicious, but Revolution Radio, which I will get to in a sec too. Are you ready to go to Rev Rad? Here we go.
Yep.
Let's go to Rev Rad, not Rev Rad, whatever. Revolution Radio in 2016. Mr. Kyle, talk to me. Revolution Radio, buddy.
So Revolution Radio is a big, big, big step up for me from the trilogy.
I agree.
They really went back to that sound of American Idiot 21st Century Breakdown type sound. I will say that I don't know if they had a falling out with Rob Cavallo. He did produce the trilogy. My hunch is that he was more of a yes man on that, and that was mostly their decisions that he just kind of went along with. He did not produce this album. This was their, I believe, only album completely self-produced.
Yep.
Because he was still there as an executive for Warning. The volume levels on this album are slightly confusing, because let's look at Too Dumb to Die, for example. The intro is incredibly quiet, and then when the full band kicks in, it gets insanely loud. And that's not the only example of this. Outlaws also has that as well, where parts of it are quiet and then the loud parts are super loud. So I think they could have balanced that a bit more. But I love this album. I still come back to this album a lot. I think that this has some of their best songs on it since the mid to late 2000s. Definitely a huge step up from the trilogy. I would say even rivaling, if not beating out their 90s work. I mean, it's clear they were listening to a lot of classic rock, like mostly bands like The Who. I mean, Somewhere Now sounds like it came right from that era, hugely influenced by that. I
Yeah.
mean, Bang Bang being the first single too to this album.
Oh my God.
Talk about a way to introduce it. Like that's an incredibly relevant song lyrically, even today with what you see going on and unfortunately the news and like the school shootings and stuff.
Yes.
It so good. Revolution Radio, the title track, incredible. I can't say enough good things about this album. And Forever Now, going back to like a 7-minute song, the different parts like that.
Yes.
One of my all-time favorite Green Day songs, if not top 3, definitely top 5. Lyrically, so good. I think the lyrics on this album are what I want from older Green Day, where they're kind of looking back, being like retrospective on their lives, specifically Billy. I mean, he does pretty much all the lyrics at this point in the band. And that's what I want from him. Mature lyrics that can still be relevant in general, but are also more personal and show that, like, yeah, I've grown up. And I think that's what we got here.
Yeah. I mean, they, first of all, this is my reintroduction to Green Day since American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown. Because I mean, before going back and listening to all these songs before we did today's show, like Somewhere Now, I've listened to on pretty much on a daily basis. Bang Bang, Revolution Radio, Still Breathing is a pretty big song. It wasn't like a Hot 100 hit, but it's still a very relevant song.
It was relatively big on like rock radio for a while. I do remember hearing it a couple of times. Definitely not like Hot 100 or anything like that. But I think they played on Hell Omega.
They did. They did on Omega, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the only song from Revolution Radio that they played.
Yeah. I love Still Breathing. Youngblood is a fun one. Troubled Times, it's good as well. But Forever Now, when you get to Forever Now, you're like, wow, they can still do that.
Mm-hmm.
They can still bring out the hard rock, operatic rock stuff.
I personally think that they could have ended it on Forever Now. I like Ordinary World a lot.
Me too.
But Forever Now is just such an epic song that I think they could have ended it on that, and it would have been a fine album closer. And
I agree.
The fun songs like Bouncing Off the Wall is so much fun.
I
and
agree.
Youngblood, I really appreciate that was a live staple at the time for this tour. Same thing with Forever Now. Like they played Forever Now and Jesus of Suburbia in the same tour. That's nuts. It's great. Say Goodbye and Troubled Times are definitely my 2 least favorites, but even those I think are both really good, borderline incredible songs.
I agree. It's an all around. I would say in the next 10 years, it's going to hold up as a really strong Green Day record or a record in general.
I agree.
Where does it rank amongst your Green Day albums, though? That's a better question.
So, number 3.
Really?
Number 3, yes. Just above Nimrod. This is the sound that I personally gravitate towards with Green Day, along the lines of 21st Century Breakdown, American Idiot style. I love this. It gives me like hints and like flashbacks of those sounds, and I think that it's the sound that I had wanted from them after 21st Century Breakdown.
I agree. With the sounding of it in general is really, really good. Like I think you were actually the person to tell me this. With the trilogy, they wrote 30 songs and just put out 30 songs and within albums, you know what I mean? Whereas this one, they wrote 12 songs, they focused on 12 songs, and that was that.
Yeah, they really wanted to have, quality over quantity on this, which I think was the right choice. I think that they picked, granted, maybe they had more written as well that didn't make the cut, but I think this is, if they're not going to make huge like rock operas anymore, like American Idiot, 21st Century Breakdown,
Yeah,
this is what I think they should do.
I agree. I mean, this is just such a solid album from start to finish. I do love Ordinary World a lot. I mean, it is a great song. Could they have done without it? Sure, because Forever Now ends on such a Somewhere Now reprise.
Mm-hmm.
But Ordinary World does end it on that kind of good note in a sense. My opinion, of course. No, nothing against Forever Now, because that song is awesome. But I do think 12 songs is focus on 12, have 12 songs, and don't overdo it. That's what I would do. But yeah. So as strong as an album of this was, we have to go to their most recent release.
So where do you rank this sound?
Oh, I am so sorry. And I'm like, I'm ready to go all of a sudden, right? Number 6, because it is lower than I thought it would be, but at the same time, it's higher than the trilogy albums. It's higher than, I put it above Warning, truthfully. I do love Rev Rad quite a bit. You're right. Sorry about that. But yes, Rev Rad is a fantastic album. I put number 6 as a modern rock album too. Forget it. It's great.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Anyways, now we can go to, do I have to say it really? Father of All? Foam?
Yeah.
Foam?
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, Foam.
So my opinion on this album has kind of changed over time. I will say that. I think it's an absolute travesty that we waited 4 years for a 26-minute album. I would be honest with that. They could have at least thrown in 1 or 2 more songs. I am in the minority that actually really likes the album cover. I love dumb, goofy things like that. And I love that they're mocking people that say, like, oh, we want you to make American Idiot again. I think that's hysterical that they put a unicorn vomiting a rainbow on top of the American Idiot cover with what looks like Green Day written in ketchup. I love that.
It's great.
But now when we talk about the actual music of it, it's a huge step back from Revolution Radio. It very much, to me, sounds like a midlife crisis album where he wanted to like feel young again and have a party album. Even like the
release press was crazy too.
Yeah. Like every video had like a weird on YouTube had a weird paragraph after like in the description that never made sense. They were like, this is uncut pure rock. This is what we love. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? It didn't make sense. And then they put out like billboards that were like, no Swedish producers, uncut pure rock with like cocaine lines underlining it.
Oh my God.
And I was like, you guys are bad. Like, I was like, you're old at this point. Like Revolution Radio, the lyrics were so retrospective and like mature. And then this album came out and it was just like, what?
Like, what's going on?
What's going on?
You're going to think I'm crazy, but on September of 2021, September, I saved that Facebook. But when they first released the press release, I want to read this out loud for all of you to understand what the hell they're talking about. Hold on a sec. You really just did not give a shit. This record is the new soul, Motown, glam, maniac, anthemic punks, freaks, and punishers. Wait, hold on, it gets better. The dirty, messy, and I have the font of it. It's written into it. The stink. The lyrics are about the lyrics are like a party and lifestyle of not giving a fuck. The life and death of the party, not political, surviving chaos. The real shit. Me, Mike, and Trey of Green Day cut through the bullshit. That's how it's always been for us. Everything else is fake. Frauds, I tell you. Rock has lost its balls. We're going to teabag all these motherfuckers. The baddest rock band on the planet gives a shit. Glorious or glorious anarchy seems to be the word that keeps coming up that reflects dancing, tribalism, anxiety, joy, violence, drugs, booze, dangerous songs for dangerous kids. Our motto, nothing says fuck you like a unicorn. Love and kisses, Billy. The new release, Father of All, coming February 7th.
So none of that
literally say
none of that describes what the album sounds like.
No, not at all.
Two, I found the billboard I was talking about that they put out to promote this.
Oh my god.
Keep in mind, each one of these is underlined. Each statement here is underlined in a line of cocaine. It says no features, no Swedish songwriters, no trap beats, 100% pure uncut rock.
Oh my god.
That's so corny. It's so corny and not like Green Day at all. I also don't care too much for the production on this. It's definitely a step up from the trilogy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's like a garage rock album. Very reminiscent, a lot of the songs of like an old 50s sound, like a modernized take on like some 50s sounds, which it's cool. Yeah. Some of the songs are cool, but as a whole album, it's 26 minutes long. It leaves so much to be desired. By the time you get to the end of it, you're like, oh, that was it.
That's my commute to work.
Yeah. I remember at the time I was doing an internship somewhere, and the album was over, and I got like 2 more songs in by the time I got there, because it was like a half-hour ride. So big letdown in terms of time. And also the first 3 songs released in order of release was Father of All, Fire Ready Aim, and Oh Yeah. So we already knew the first 3 songs of the album before it came out.
Yeah. And then the day of release, Meet Me on the Roof comes out.
Now, I will say I really enjoy these songs though.
Yeah.
I don't like Junkies on a High. I can't stand.
Yeah.
It's the 3rd song of the only 3 Green Day songs I just physically do not like. And I Was a Teenager's filler. Kind of sounds more like a Weezer song to me. It sounds like Green Day trying to sound like Weezer. And I like Weezer. So that's, I mean, the good songs on here are really freaking good. Like even Father of All, I don't even mind the falsetto that he does. I think that's actually like top tier Green Day song. People can say what they want about it. It sounds great. Take the Money and Crawl is it kicks ass, man. Like Take the Money and Crawl is incredible. Graffitia is a great way to end the album. And I think that's the sound that more people wanted from this album, because that was more like the Revolution Radio style stuff. Meet Me on the Roof is fun. Stab You in the Heart is super fun, and Sugar Youth is really good too. And even Oh Yeah is great. It's just that this whole like weird era of the band didn't feel like Green Day. It felt like they were just kind of like messing around and like didn't care about what they were doing or putting out.
Maybe Billy was high when he wrote that message, by the way.
I don't know, man. Maybe, because that was a...
And I saved the font of it too.
Each of those videos, like, I don't know, I think they deleted them since then, because I remember trying to look for it recently. But when they first posted the music videos, each one had a weird similar paragraph like that under it, or at least one line of just weird nonsense.
It was so strange, dude. I looked at that, I was like, what the hell are they doing?
But having said all these criticisms, I actually thoroughly enjoy this album, like more than most people. Most people are like, oh, Father of All, that album is garbage, their worst one. And at the time I was like, I kind of agree. I probably would have put Dose below it, to be honest, but I don't know. I still find myself going back listening to the good songs from this album.
I agree. Meet Me on the Roof is a staple for me personally.
For me, Take the Money and Crawl is like my favorite off the album. I love that.
Yeah, it's good too. What's the one? Father of All, though, the title track is just so good. It's just a bop to me. I love it.
completely agree. So for me, having said all that,
Oh no.
I gotta put it in number 9.
Okay. All right.
I think that if the songs that were released after the album came out, like the Here Comes the Shock, Pollyanna, and Holy Toledo, I think if those were on the album and the album's a little bit longer,
Yeah.
it might even be above Uno, to be honest. But with as it is, I gotta put it at 9. It's just too short and it leaves a lot to be desired.
I agree. For me personally, I put it one below you at number 10. But that is me personally. I as much as I do love the title track, Father of All, and stuff like Fire Ready Aim is really good. I just wish this thing was longer.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem with it. A lot of people have a problem, and I will say I don't necessarily disagree. The production, I think they should stay away from working with Butch Walker ever again.
I agree.
I forget what album. We discussed one album that he had a hand in quite a few of the songs. It might have been Fall Out Boy's Mania.
Yes.
But I don't care for him too much as a producer. I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure he does have some stuff that's like good. The amount of hand claps on this album, I think every song on this album has hand claps somewhere in it, and that drives me a little bit nuts.
I just want to see something really quick, but yeah, like he's produced a lot too. I just want to say he's done a lot. Anyways, but yeah, like the hand claps and stuff. Yeah,
it's just a little too much, and you can't really fully blame him for that. I'm sure they wanted that, but I think that even the songs that came out after this were even a step up. Like Here Comes the Shock. A lot of people don't like that one. I like it. It's a dumb, fun song.
Exactly.
Kind of like Fire Ready Aim. Fire Ready Aim, the lyrics are horrible. Same thing with Here Comes the Shock. They're dumb, stupid lyrics, but the songs themselves are upbeat and fun. Pollyanna, I think that's a really great song.
It came over well in Hell Omega too.
Yeah, and the whole message behind it. And then same thing, Holy Toledo, which they released last October, is especially solid. So I mean, if that's the direction they want to go, I'm fine with it. But it's just make a longer album, or don't market it as an album. Call it an EP.
Yes, Father of All EPs. So, that's their most recent album, right? Yeah.
Yep, that's their most recent album. They have since then, the network put out their follow-up album, Money Money 2020 Part 2, which had a couple songs from Foam that were left over, which is interesting. Art of the Deal with the Devil was confirmed to be a Father of All song, and Degenerate is thought to be from Father of All as well. But I mean, they're working on a new album now. I have high hopes for it. They're back with Rob Cavallo, it seems. So hopefully after the European leg of Hell Omega, which is this month, I believe, into July, hopefully we'll get something new from them after.
I mean, they've been teasing this 1972 crap for a while too. So
yeah, since the end of 2021. It's been months now.
I know I mean, they're all 50 years old now. They might as well.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that they're done with the midlife crisis era.
I
think that this was a weird, and by the lack of Father of All songs on Hell Omega, I'm assuming that they are. I have a feeling that this is going to be an album that they're going to just never touch again and never talk about.
Probably.
Kind of like they did with the trilogy, but I would actually enjoy to hear what they had to say about it, like in hindsight. I would like to see what, if they were ever asked about in an interview, what their take on it was. But we may never know.
So let's do this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. You can share your screen now and give the viewers a breakdown of what what our breakdown is. Let me do this. I do it again. I could do, hold on. Oops.
Yep. Can you see that?
Not yet. Hold on. Let me do this. There you go. Perfect. Sorry about that. Anyways, go ahead. That's sick.
So
what you have up
so
right
we
now is
got-
awesome.
So we got my ranking here. Number 13, 39, Smooth. 12, Dose. Kerplunk at number 11. Warning at number 10. Father of All at number 9. Trey at 8. Uno at 7. Dookie at 6. Insomniac at 5. Nimrod at 4. And then my big 3, Revolution Radio, American Idiot, and 21st Century Breakdown, rounding out at number 1. I'll be honest with you, this list surprised me when I made it in a number of ways. One, I didn't expect Dookie to be so low. I didn't expect Father of All to be as high as it is. And I didn't expect Warning to be as low as it was.
There you go.
Same thing with Insomniac. I didn't think that would be that high. So I was pleasantly surprised. Then we got your ranking here. Dose at number 13. 39 Smooth at 12. Kerplunk at 11. Father of All at 10. Uno at 9. Trey at 8. Warning at 7. Revolution Radio at 6. Insomniac at 5. Nimrod at 4. Dookie at 3. 21st Century Breakdown at 2. And number 1, American Idiot.
This is a great list. Both lists are great.
Both lists are great. That's the great thing about Green Day is everyone has a different list of Green Day. Everyone has their preferred like era of the band. And that's what I wanted to touch on to kind of wrap things up is when we were talking about Warning, you're talking about that being like the end of an era for that band.
Yeah.
For that era of the band. I would have to agree. Like when I listen to Green Day, I have like specific eras always in my head. Like there was the pre, 39 Smooth and Kerplunk days, the pre-major label. Then you got your like Dookie and Insomniac being like the breakthrough like pop punk hits. Kind of leading into Nimrod and Warning being experimental. Warning really did kill that entire 90s version of the band that we really haven't seen ever come back since. 2000s gave us the more serious, like epic rock opera version of the band with American Idiot, 21st Century Breakdown. Then we had the first weird era of the band, and this is where the eras kind of get weird, is you have the trilogy, but then you have Revolution Radio, which fits more along the lines of the 2000s albums. Then you have Father of All that fits back in with the trilogy. So I'm interested to see where they're going to go from here. I'm hoping it's something more mature and less midlife crisis feeling than Father of All. But if it's a new era altogether of the band, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
And that's going to do it for us. I want to thank, as always, my man, Kyle Q, for tuning in and helping me and doing this podcast together. We love doing it. I thank you so much for doing this with me. You are the man. Thank you.
Of course.
And if you like what you've seen here and you like listening to us, subscribe to us on YouTube simply at The Super Review Show. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, like us on Facebook, and hit the like button as well. Follow us on Spotify Podcasts. We do a regular show called Mixed Bag on Wednesday nights. We had to push this to Friday to today because of our schedules. Thank goodness we got it out of the way, and we had a blast doing it. I want to thank you so much for watching, listening, however you enjoyed us. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.